Chapter 690. Seeing Feng Xingjian's sudden appearance. Everyone present was astonished. That gold-robed mage did not pay any heed to Feng Xingjian's warning. His hand seals continued to move, and the huge golden palm from earlier released young Master Ming, turning into a huge fist that came charging over. Be careful. That's diabolic energy, and its prowess far surpasses that of ordinary divine-level martial wills. Don't take it head-on. This gold-robed mage has used some kind of secret technique to be able to activate diabolic energy to attack. The prowess of this diabolic energy far surpasses that of our martial wills. We can't take it head-on. Dodge quickly. Don't get hit by this diabolic energy. In that instant, Audrey, Xing, and the others immediately sent out layers of information currents, sending them into Feng Xingjian's consciousness at lightning speed. They wanted to remind Feng Xingjian to dodge that huge palm formed from diabolic energy. However, faced with this incoming huge palm, Feng Xingjian did not dodge at all. He was immune to diabolic energy to begin with. He tapped out with his other hand, and there seemed to be a stream of sword light slashing across in void space. The huge golden palm was split into two, then split again and again. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a series of light spots and dissipated into the air. This bit of diabolic energy of yours is much weaker than the ones I've encountered in the past. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze, as if they had not expected that the diabolic energy, which they were helpless against, and which even the divine-level expert Jacob was unwilling to take on head-on, would be so weak before Feng Xingjian. The middle-aged mage looked at this scene with a mixture of astonishment and fury. He said coldly, "Who are you? How dare you stop us gold-robed mages from doing things? Do you know the consequences of making enemies out of us?" "I'm Feng Xingjian," Feng Xingjian said calmly. "I've already warned the Mage Association not to offend me." As he spoke, sword intents flashed wildly, instantly slashing off the middle-aged mage's forelimbs. However, at the next moment, it was as if time had been reversed. The middle-aged mage's injuries recovered, and his forelimbs were unscathed as if he had never been injured before. He sneered and said, "It's useless. The Shaman King has already bestowed upon us the blessing of the Time King. Any attacks are useless against us." "Is that so?" Feng Xingjian replied calmly. How could an ability of this level enter the eyes of the current Feng Xingjian? At the next moment, just as the middle-aged mage sensed that something was not right, his head was crushed by Feng Xingjian. After letting out an agonizing cry, he recovered once again and glared furiously at Feng Xingjian. "You lunatic! You're making an enemy out of the Mage Association. The Mage Kings won't let you off." Feng Xingjian smiled coldly and once again crushed the middle-aged mage's head. This cycle repeated for the 7th time. There were a few times when the middle-aged mage wanted to gather diabolic energy to escape. He even wanted to perform gold faction black magic to reduce Feng Xingjian's speed. However, it was all to no avail. The huge golden palm slapped out, but Feng Xingjian destroyed it with a single finger. The time deceleration black magic surrounded Feng Xingjian, but did not affect him in the slightest. The effect of the time acceleration black magic on the mage's hands was still not as fast as Feng Xingjian's light speed attacks from his martial will. The more the battle went on, the more despair the middle-aged mage felt. His attitude and tone also gradually changed. "Feng Xingjian, you'd better remember this. I won't let you off. I'm going to kill you." "Wait, don't attack. Stop." After killing 8 times consecutively, Feng Xingjian finally stopped after hearing the middle-aged mage's pleas for mercy. The middle-aged mage looked at Feng Xingjian in a panic and said, Don't attack anymore. I admit defeat. Feng Xingjian, don't you want to know about the Mage Association's information? I can tell you everything." Feng Xingjian stopped his actions, crossed his arms before his chest, looked at the middle-aged mage calmly, and said, "So, there's also a limit to your undying bodies?" The middle-aged mage gulped and said with slight reluctance, "That's right. There's a limit to the number of times each person can be reborn. The more diabolic energy one has, the more times they can be reborn. Each time they reverse time and rebirth, they'll need to deplete a tremendous amount of diabolic energy. From afar, Audrey and the others looked at this scene in a daze. The gold-robed mage, who had been chasing after them as if they were mice, had been beaten up by Feng Xingjian just like that. However, thinking that Feng Xingjian was a divine-level expert after all and had even single-handedly suppressed the 7 great clans, it was very normal for him to deal with a level 29 mage. Therefore, they felt relieved. It was just that they had not expected that Feng Xingjian would be able to deal with diabolic energy so easily. Feng Xingjian nodded and continued to ask, "Tell me, what on earth is going on?" Under Feng Xingjian's intense gaze, the middle-aged mage felt waves of pressure being transmitted to his body. It was as if every single cell in his body had been pierced by a long sword, and he felt that if he were to make any abnormal movements, he would probably be killed once again. Previously, when he had heard the rumors about Feng Xingjian, such as how he had killed the undying Xia, defeated the blue sacred moonlight, and crippled the first prince, he had thought that the divine-level experts from the Night faction were too weak. Now that he had encountered Feng Xingjian, he finally understood how terrifying the latter was. Feng Xingjian had not used any moves or performed any special abilities. He had only used a simple punch and a finger, yet he had been unable to retaliate at all. Furthermore, the fact that even his diabolic energy had been easily defeated by Feng Xingjian made him even more astonished. Therefore, when he heard Feng Xingjian's question, the middle-aged mage answered honestly. The Association and the Empire's royal family are going to hold the evil god ritual and are planning to take action first, purging all the influences in the entire country. This is to prevent people from coming out to disrupt the ritual and create unnecessary variables. Purge the entire country? Feng Xingjian's eyes narrowed slightly. Thankfully, he did not sense that any of his core subordinates' lives were in danger. It seemed that they should still be fine. "That's right," the gold-robed mage replied. "We're in charge of suppressing the 7 great clans. As for the other factions and clans, there will be people to take care of them." Feng Xingjian said calmly, "Who are the people you've sent to deal with the 7 great clans this time around?" "Other than me, there are 3 others." The middle-aged mage threw a glance at Audrey and the others. Knowing that there was no way for him to hide the truth, he could only say honestly, 2 of them are level 29 mages who are about the same level as me, while the other one is a divine-level expert. He's a peerless genius from our gold-robed mage faction, Devon. Devon? How is he compared to Elnoworth? Elnoworth was the genius from the gold-robed faction who had been killed by Tian Dao. The middle-aged mage threw a surprised glance at Feng Xingjian, not knowing how Feng Xingjian knew of Elnoworth's existence. Clearly, the gold-robed faction's understanding of Feng Xingjian was a far cry from that of the gray-robed and black-robed factions. In the battle earlier, they did not even know that Feng Xingjian was immune to black magic and diabolic energy. After being stunned for a moment, the middle-aged mage said, "Lord Devon is about the same level as Lord Elnoworth. Moreover, he has now attained Tier 1 of the divine level and is able to refine diabolic energy for his own use. He has also grasped quite a number of black magic that is at level 10 or above. His battle prowess is so strong that it's comparable to Tier 2 or even 3 divine-level experts from the Path of Knights." He then looked at Feng Xingjian and said, "Feng Xingjian, it's true that you're very amazing, but the true horror of black magic isn't something that a layman like you can understand. If you really encounter Lord Devon, you probably won't even be able to last a single breath. If you let me go now, I can help you join the Mage Association and come into contact with the true path of power." Chapter 691. Feng Xingjian did not look at him. Instead, he looked at Audrey and asked, "Is there a problem with what he said?" Audrey and the others shook their heads as they looked at Feng Xingjian agitatedly, sweeping away the dejection they had felt over the past few days. Looking at the middle-aged man whom Feng Xingjian had captured, all of them revealed delighted expressions. Seeing everyone shaking their heads, Feng Xingjian threw a glance at the middle-aged mage. The latter was instantly slashed into pieces by countless streams of sword intents, then regenerated, slashed into pieces again, then regenerated again, and slashed into pieces again. After 3 consecutive times, the middle-aged mage let out an agonizing cry and finally could no longer be regenerated. He died completely. Fang Xingjian's gaze turned toward the Holy Light Clan's base and said calmly, "Let's go back to the Holy Light Clan." Just then, young Master Meng, who had been severely injured earlier, had been regenerated. Hearing Fang Xingjian's words, he immediately advised, "Wait a minute. That gold-robed mage by the name of Devin is probably still in the valley. It's too risky for us to head over there directly." "That's right." Xing also said, "Xingjian, your sword arts are top-notch and your abilities are unrivaled, but that Devin is also very powerful. Moreover, black magic has always been more powerful than our night arts. It's too dangerous to head over recklessly like this. It's better to look for a few more helpers and make some preparations before." The few of them wanted to advise Fang Xingjian. After all, they had all witnessed how powerful both Devin and Fang Xingjian were. Although Fang Xingjian's battle prowess in suppressing the 7 great clans single-handedly was extremely powerful, it was still a little lacking when compared to the black magic that Devin had displayed when he had defeated Jacob. Therefore, in their opinion, the safest method was to look for a few helpers. As an expert from the Second Prince's faction, and it was said that Fang Xingjian was on good terms with the Myriad Stars Palace and Prince Philip, it should not be difficult for him to look for 1 or 2 divine-level experts to help him. However, hearing this, Fang Xingjian shook his head. Long-winded. As he spoke, he raised both of his hands, and the group of people were all locked down by his sword intents. Everyone soared up into the sky in that instant, propelled by Fang Xingjian's sword intents, flying toward where the Holy Light Clan was located. Right now, in the Holy Light Clan, countless people were bustling about on the ruins of the manor. They kept on digging through the ruins, moving all sorts of treasures, jewels, gemstones, heavenly and earthly treasures, and all sorts of medicinal herbs for cultivation. Carriages after carriages of wealth belonging to the Holy Light Clan were being moved out. The wealth that the Holy Light Clan had accumulated over several centuries could be said to be comparable to that of a country. Right now, it was being transported out by the many carts, forming many long lines. It was as if ants were moving houses. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the manor ruins, over 100 warriors from the 7 great clans were impaled on wooden sticks. The wooden sticks pierced through their tailbones all the way to their torsos, protruding out of their mouths. They were then impaled into the ground like human skewers. These warriors had all resisted the golden-robed mages and were tortured to death. Looking at the corpses on the wooden stakes, the group of warriors who were digging the ruins and transporting the wealth all revealed expressions of fear and despair. Young Master Long, who had been in high spirits, was flipping the crushed rocks on the ground to search for the Holy Light Clan's treasures while throwing a careful glance toward the sky. In the sky above the manor, a short man with a height of about 1.5 meters stood in void space. He wore a golden robe, and there would occasionally be streams of golden electricity swimming around in his eyes. Behind him stood 2 other middle-aged, golden-robed mages. One of them had black skin, while the other had fair skin. Although they were both taller than this short man, neither of them dared to stand taller than him. Young Master Long clenched his fists. It was that short man by the name of Devin who had descended on the mountains a few days ago, defeated Jacob with a single move, suppressed the 7 great clans, and killed several hundred warriors who had resisted. His ferocious prowess was overwhelming, and no one dared to go up against him. Young Master Lei patted young Master Long on the shoulder and said through information currents, "Don't look anymore. Be careful of him getting angry again." Young Master Long said, feeling indignant, "To think that our 7 great clans, who have dominated the empire for over 100 years, would end up in such a state." Young Master Lei shook his head. "Black magic is too powerful. In this world, probably only the Holy Sea of Truth will be able to go up against the Mage Association." A figure appeared in young Master Long's eyes. if Fong Xingjian was still around. Don't be silly, young Master Lei said with a bitter smile. If he were a match for us, he would have made his move long ago. Moreover, Audrey said that he went to strive for the 9-tiered heavens, but disappeared for an entire month. He's probably lost in the 9-tiered heavens and died. Moreover, even if he were to come over, what right does he have to fight against Devon? What right does he have to wage war against the Mage Association? Even His Majesty wouldn't dare to wage war against the Mage Association. Thinking of this, the two of them let out a heavy sigh. Just then, a piercing sound rang out, and young Master Yi, who was also one of the 4 gentlemen, flew toward Devon in the sky. Seeing young Master Yi in the sky, both young Master Long and young Master Lei revealed a hint of fury on their faces. However, they forcefully held it in, as if afraid of being discovered by Devon in the sky. Young Master Yi leaped to Devon's side and said respectfully, "Sir, over 80% of the Holy Light Clan's treasures have been excavated, and 50% of them have been transported back to Sun City. That Jacob has also been escorted to Sun City and is being detained by Lord Shou. Sun City was the city closest to this place in the Northern Ice region. Clearly, they had dug out most of the Holy Light Clan's wealth and transported it out over the past few days. Even the Holy Light Clan's head, who was at Tier 1 of the Divine level, had been detained. With Senior Shou looking after Jacob, there won't be any problems. A Divine level expert like him can be considered a rare material." Devon nodded calmly and continued to ask, "Where's Fong Xingjian? Haven't you found him yet?" Young Master Yi said cautiously, "That Fong Xingjian hasn't been found yet. He's probably either failed in his attempt to attain the 9-tiered heavens, or he's afraid of Sir's strength and has escaped." Devon shook his head. "Before I came to the Empire, I've heard that Fong Xingjian is the strongest expert amongst the younger generation in the Empire. I had wanted to spar with him. It's a pity. It seems that the Path of Knights is still a little lacking compared to black magic." Another pale-faced, gold-robed mage said, "Sir, the higher-ups are urging us to return quickly. During this period of time, many unfamiliar faces have appeared in the palace, but all of them possess powerful abilities. Lord Mage King wants us to head over to investigate." "The royal family?" Devon said calmly. "Other than Alexander and the Abyss Lord, there aren't many other characters in the royal family. If it wasn't for Alexander's outstanding talent, what right would the Krieg royal family have to work together with us?" Young Master Yi maintained his bowing posture, not daring to show the slightest change in the respectful expression on his face. Just then, over 10 light shadows cut across the sky, flying toward the manor's ruins. Devon frowned slightly. "Who are they?" Young Master Yi looked toward the group of people flying over, a little speechless. When he saw Fong Xingjian in the lead, he was stunned for a moment and said, "It's Fong Xingjian." Devon revealed an amused expression as he looked at Fong Xingjian, who was in the lead, and said, "Oh, that guy is Fong Xingjian?" Behind Fong Xingjian, Audrey and Xingxing Er's eyes were filled with anxiety. When they saw Devon's gaze sweeping toward them, their bodies trembled, and hints of terror appeared in their eyes. During this period of time, they had witnessed Devon's brutality. If it wasn't because the head of the Holy Light Clan, Jacob, had risked his life to stop them, they wouldn't have been able to escape. However, they had not expected that Fong Xingjian would ignore their objections and bring them back. At the thought of this, their gazes toward Fong Xingjian were filled with a hint of resentment. Even Audrey sighed slightly, not wishing to go against the Mage Association. Chapter 692. When young Master Long and young Master Lei saw this scene, they were both astonished. However, at the thought of Devon's strange black magic and the Mage Association behind him, their hearts sank. This is bad. Why has Fong Xingjian barged in alone? Didn't he get some help from the second prince? How can he be a match for Devon alone? Moreover, he has the Mage Association behind him. If he were to act rashly like this, he'll end up going to war with the Mage Association. That's not right. Fong Xingjian shouldn't be so rash. He should be here to save them and to discuss terms, right? He shouldn't be going to war with the Mage Association directly. At the thought of this, anxiety and nervousness appeared on the duo's faces. They only hoped that Feng Xingjian was only here to save them and not to go to war with Devon. Putting aside everyone's terror and uneasiness, Feng Xingjian looked at Devon and said, "Shorty, you're Devon?" Hearing Feng Xingjian's words, the countenances of the two gold-robed mages changed drastically. Young Master Ye's countenance turned ghastly pale. It was true that Devon was very short. Even after attaining Tier 1 of the Divine level, as a gold-robed mage, he did not have the regenerative powers of knights and was still very short. After all, for mages to advance to the Divine level, they needed to refine diabolic energy for their own use. This would allow them to directly increase their willpower, and it had nothing to do with the 5 tiers of perfection in their physical bodies. Moreover, gold-robed mages did not have black magic like the gray-robed mages who could casually modify their physical bodies. However, it was also because of his short stature that Devon hated it when others called him Shorty. Everyone who called him that would be brutally killed by him. Hearing how Feng Xingjian addressed him, streams of blood capillaries instantly filled Devon's eyes. "Kid, you're very daring." As Devon spoke, he slapped out with his palm, and golden light gathered. In that instant, it turned into a golden beam that grabbed out fiercely toward Feng Xingjian. This was the diabolic energy that he had stored in his body after refining diabolic energy. It was equivalent to having turned into his martial will, so Feng Xingjian was not immune to it. It was because mages could directly refine diabolic energy into the power of their martial will and perform all sorts of black magic that they were able to stand above many knights. However, faced with Devon's palm attack across space, Feng Xingjian did not even look at it. He slashed out with his sword, and violent sword intents slashed the huge golden palm into two. "Shorty, didn't the Black Mage King tell you not to offend me?" Hearing Feng Xingjian's words, the countenances of everyone present changed drastically. They had not expected that Feng Xingjian would be so daring as to provoke the Black Mage King. Devon was enraged, and golden light burst forth. Arrogant, ignorant. However, Feng Xingjian's sword intent swept out, once again slashing his opponent's martial will into two. Then with a flash, Feng Xingjian darted through spatial gaps and stomped down toward Devon's head. Devon's countenance did not change, and he instantly performed the level 9 black magic, gracefulness of time. The flow of time seemed to have slowed down, and everything within a range of 100 meters became like a snail. The only exception was Feng Xingjian, who was not affected at all and continued to stomp down. Gracefulness of time is ineffective. Devon's countenance changed, and golden light burst out from his body. His golden martial will turned into a light screen, blocking before him. With a bang, Feng Xingjian's foot stomped onto the golden light screen. However, how powerful was his physical body now? It was the heaven-connecting sword physique formed by the fusion of his martial will and physical body. This stomp was equivalent to an explosive power of 600 points of physical strength and 1,500 points of martial will. With a boom, the golden light screen instantly shattered, and Feng Xingjian's foot stomped down on Devon's head. The latter's head exploded instantly, turning into a headless corpse that plunged down toward the ground. However, when the other two gold-robed mages and young Master Yi saw this scene, none of them panicked at all. It was because they knew that this death could not even be considered as a physical injury to Devon. When young Master Long and young Master Lei saw this scene, their hearts skipped a beat and their scalps turned numb. They had a feeling that a great calamity was about to befall them. This is bad. Feng Xingjian is really going to wage war against the Mage Association. Although his sword arts are godly and his cultivation is powerful, he's still a little lacking against a divine level mage like Devon. Moreover, Devon has the entire gold-robed mages and the entire Mage Association behind him. At the thought of this, the two of them were terrified. They were afraid that they would be implicated by Devon or the Mage Association in the future. If that were to happen, it would not be as easy as digging through the ruins. By the time Devon's corpse fell into midair, it had once again returned to its original state. Golden Marshall will gushed out wildly, lifting him up once again. Devon's eyes were burning with fury as he looked at Feng Xingjian. Simultaneously, he formed seals with his hands and activated the level 11 black magic, Future Vision. Kid, you dare to make an enemy out of our mage association? I'll let you know what true terror is. From now onward, he would be able to predict the attacks that would be launched 1 second in advance. However, Feng Xingjian did not care. He took another step out and stomped down. I've warned the Black Mage King not to offend me. Since your gold robe faction has come to offend me, I'll destroy your mage association. Layers of killing intent flashed on the faces of the 3 mages present. They looked at Feng Xingjian as if they were looking at a lunatic, a dead person. They had not expected that he would dare to provoke the mage association like this. The countenances of the people from the other 7 great clans turned pale as they looked worriedly at Feng Xingjian, who was in the sky. Devon had long since known Feng Xingjian's attack route through his future vision. He pushed his palm upward, fending off Feng Xingjian's attack with an intense golden light. All of his martial will was channeled into this palm defense. The piercing golden light seemed as if it was going to pierce through void space. The surrounding space distorted into layers and layers, extending out to an area of several hundred meters. By turning diabolic energy into their own power, it was true that mages' pure strength far surpassed that of knights. The power of this palm alone was comparable to that of a tier 3 divine level expert. Concurrently, he tapped out with his other hand, activating the level 12 black magic shuttle to the past. His body, which had been empty earlier, once again produced a stream of golden light. It was because the shuttle to the past black magic allowed one to borrow powers from the past. At this moment, it was as if Devon had instantly unleashed 2 of his powers. One was used for defense, while the other was used for offense. However, at the next moment, the golden light shattered, and the palm that was pushing upward was stomped into dust by Feng Xingjian. Feng Xingjian then continued to stomp down on Devon's face mercilessly. Devon's head was once again stomped down, and he plunged onto the ground, sending dust splattering all over the place. Roar! At the next moment, golden light burst out, and a total of 9 Devons charged out with furious bellows. Each of them brought along 100% of their powers. It was the level 12 black magic, chaotic army. It could summon 8 of them from different timelines and use them to attack simultaneously. However, they had just charged out when they were once again stomped down by Feng Xingjian. Their heads smashed into the ground, and under the immense pressure of the terrifying force, their nose bridge caved in, their cheeks shattered, and their brains scattered. Their heads were stomped down once again. You! Golden Prince cut across void space, and 2 sharp blades that represented the profoundness of time descended from the sky. Wherever they passed by, time seemed to be accelerated, and everything seemed to fall before these 2 sharp blades. It was a level 13 black magic, Blade of Time. It was a super black magic that could directly harvest the other party's lifespan. However, the amount of lifespan it harvested from the other party would also deplete the user's lifespan. This was Devon going all out. However, faced with Devon's desperate attack, Feng Xingjian merely put out his finger and flicked the Blade of Time away. Then he stomped down on Devon's head once again, causing it to explode. Everyone watched with their eyes and mouths agape as Devon climbed up time and time again while bellowing furiously. However, he was stomped back into the ground by Feng Xingjian time and time again, turning into meat paste. After stomping down on Devon's chest once again, Feng Xingjian's gaze swept toward Audrey and said, "You guys gather everyone together first. Also, collect all of the Holy Light Clan's resources while you're at it. I still need some time here." Feng Xingjian looked at Devon, who had recovered. Then he stomped down once again, causing a myriad of golden light to explode. Feng Xingjian stomped down on Devon's neck, and his head flew out. Shaking his head, Feng Xingjian continued to say, "After all, Even if they're ants, it'll still take some time to step on them one by one. Chapter 693. Hearing Feng Xingjian's words, the remaining two gold-robed mages were so infuriated that they were trembling. One of the mages with tan skin bellowed furiously, "Stop it! Feng Xingjian, do you want to die? The Gold Mage King won't let you off." Not bothering to listen to the other party's words, Feng Xingjian turned and smashed the other party's body with a palm strike. Then he stomped down on Devon's head. Feng Xingjian then exerted a suction force with a single palm, and the mage's body, which had just recovered, flew up to him. Feng Xingjian grabbed the mage's neck and lifted him up in midair like a little chick. After stomping down on Devon, who was just about to stand up, Feng Xingjian looked at the mage and said coldly, "I've thought of a new way to deal with you guys. What are you going to?" Feng Xingjian did not wait for the mage to finish his words. He swung his hand, and the mage instantly broke through sound barriers, creating a series of air currents as he was sent flying out into the sky. The mage let out an agonizing cry, and amidst the intense friction with the air, he instantly turned into ashes under the atmospheric pressure that was several 100,000 times stronger than normal. He continued to recover and turn into ashes. In the blink of an eye, he broke through the atmospheric layer in outer space. He watched as the world slowly became smaller and rounder before his eyes until he entered outer space. Without stepping into the divine level, the mage was unable to see the 9-tiered heavens. He charged into vacuum space at a speed that was 100 times that of supersonic speed, dashing out toward outer space. However, in vacuum space, he was not killed instantly. With an explosive bellow, he exuded layers of stacking golden light. He wanted to reduce his speed and fly back. However, in the universe, there are almost no physical substances. The temperature plunged rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it reached negative 200 degrees Celsius, 240 degrees Celsius, 270 degrees Celsius. The golden light had only burst out for a few seconds when it dissipated once again. The dark-skinned magus had already turned into an ice sculpture, and he continued to fly into space like a meteor. On the snowy mountain, everyone looked at the mage, who had instantly turned into a small dot in the sky and then disappeared without a trace. They were speechless. Another mage shouted, "What did you do to him?" "Send him on a cosmic journey." Feng Xingjian glanced at the remaining sorcerer and raised a finger. In an instant, the sorcerer screamed and flew out of the universe like a rocket, disappearing into the horizon. As he spoke, Feng Xingjian once again stomped down on Devon, who had recovered. Devon's strength was getting weaker and weaker, and he had not launched another attack after 3 consecutive recoveries. Feng Xingjian lowered his head and looked at Devon. He could toss ordinary gold-robed mages into outer space and kill them. However, the divine-level mages under his feet would probably not die even if they were tossed into outer space. Wait! With a boom, Feng Xingjian once again stomped down on his chest, causing it to explode. Feng Xingjian, with a bang, he kicked Devon's head and sent it flying. Surrender. Boom. I surrender. Boom. Feng Xingjian, boom. LF*CKU, boom. Mother. Everyone in the surroundings watched with their eyes and mouths agape as Feng Xingjian stomped on Devon to death. They watched as Devon was completely defenseless and put up a weak resistance, like a girl in primary school who was being squeezed by a bear. He's too powerful. How is that possible? To think that Devon can't even fend off a single attack? To think that a divine-level gold-robed mage, an expert who can control time, is being beaten up? Audrey, Xing, the 4 great young masters, and the expert from the other 7 great clans looked at this scene in disbelief. They watched as Devon was stomped to death time and time again. Only they, who had personally experienced Devon's strength, understood how terrifying this scene was. Just as Feng Xingjian was about to stomp down once again, a seemingly material golden light extended out from Devon's chest. If the middle-aged gold-robed mage's golden light was said to be as thin as a veil and Devon's golden light was as thick as a golden cloth, then the golden light that had suddenly appeared was as material as a piece of gold. This also seemed to represent the strength of diabolic energy. The golden light very quickly formed a completely golden human body, just like a golden statue. It was an elderly man who wore long robes and had long sleeves that drooped down. He had a tall crown and a long beard. The moment the elderly man appeared, an intense pressure engulfed the entire place. The space around him kept on distorting and collapsing. It was as if one could faintly see the shadows of the past and the future flashing by. When everyone saw this elderly man, they only had one feeling. It was that this elderly man seemed to be able to control time and draw out their lifespans from their bodies. Could this person be Master? Save me, as Devin shouted. Everyone finally found out the identity of this golden figure amidst their astonishment. Devon's master was the leader of the gold-robed mages and one of the top-notch experts in the Mage Association, the Gold Mage King. It was as if the life and death of the universe, the circulation of all living things in the world, and the endless river of time seemed to be flowing in his eyes at every moment. Looking at the Gold Mage King, everyone present was astonished. To think that the Gold Mage King has personally descended, Xing said in horror, I wonder if Xingjian is a match for the Gold Mage King. If it's this clone, Xingjian should still be able to fend it off, young Master Meng said with a sigh. Young Master Meng sighed and said, but this also means that we'll be enemies with the Mage Association from now on. Young Master Long frowned and said, that might not be the case. With Xingjian's current abilities, even if he isn't a match for the Gold Mage King's true body, he should still be qualified to negotiate terms. As long as he lets Devon off, he might even be able to turn enemies into friends. Everyone looked at the Gold Mage King. Not a single one of them had the courage to fight against the Gold Mage King. In their opinion, Xingjian letting Devon off this time around and making peace with the Gold Mage King seemed to be the best outcome. At the sight of Xingjian, the Gold Mage King shouted, Xingjian, stop first. You want me to stop with just a clone? Scram. Simultaneously, four astonishing rainbows soared into the sky. The celestial eradication sword formation was activated, and endless powers were augmented onto Xingjian's body. Earlier on, regardless of whether he was dealing with a middle-aged mage or Devon, Xingjian had only relied on his own powers and had not used the celestial eradication sword formation. However, now that the Gold Mage King's clone had descended, he would not continue to be careless and not use the sword formation. As Xingjian stomped down, bringing along the endless sword cheese from the celestial eradication sword formation, the golden light instantly shattered. The Gold Mage King's clone was crushed by Xingjian's stomp. Xingjian then stomped down on Devon's body. With the final stomp, Devon's head was crushed, and Devon's entire body turned into a pool of mush. This time around, he did not come back to life. The diabolic energy in his body had been completely depleted. Everyone watched with their eyes and mouths agape as the Gold Mage King's clone was crushed by a single stomp right after it appeared. Devon was truly killed as well. Their minds went blank, and they were unable to say anything. Chapter 694. No one could have expected or understood why Xingjian had been able to win. Gold-robed mages were able to control time and reduce the flow of time in all material objects. Just a level 9 black magic, gracefulness of time, was sufficient for these gold-robed mages to go up against most Tier 1 divine level experts. Moreover, the Gold Mage King's clone had descended personally. However, to think that even the Gold Mage King's clone had been destroyed by a single kick from Xingjian. How strong on earth had Xingjian become? Everyone present was in a state of great astonishment as they looked at Xingjian, unable to say a single word. In the sky, young Master Yi dropped to the ground with a thud. He knelt down and crawled toward Xingjian like a bug. Xingjian, I was forced to do this. If I hadn't listened to these gold-robed mages, they would have killed me. Moreover, I was their subordinate and took the opportunity to save many people from the 7 great clans. Young Master Yi knelt down before Xingjian. As the Gold Mage King's clone was destroyed with a single kick, There was no longer anyone present who doubted Fang Xingjian's abilities. Audrey mumbled, Xingjian might really have the ability to go up against Mage King level experts. Er's gaze was filled with fervor as she looked at Fang Xingjian. This is a legend. This is a myth. I thought that although Fang Xingjian is unrivaled, he would only be able to dominate amongst knights. To think that he can go up against mages like this. Young Master Lei's eyes were filled with astonishment. To think that he can defeat the Gold Mage King so easily. It seems that the world is really going to change. Looking at young Master Yi, who was kneeling down and begging for mercy, Fang Xingjian threw a glance, and young Master Yi was engulfed by endless sword light. His physical body turned into dust, and his martial will was also wiped out completely. He exploded into light powder that filled up the sky. He was completely dead. Fang Xingjian would definitely not tolerate people who surrendered. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines when they saw young Lord Yi, who had been killed in one move. Fang Xingjian looked at young Master Meng and said, You stay here and prepare the Holy Light Clan's things. Then head to the Sun City to look for me. All right. Young Master Meng looked at Fang Xingjian cautiously and asked, Sir, are you going to? Just call me Xingjian. Fang Xingjian looked toward the south of the snowy mountains and said, I'll go rescue Jacob. Since the head of the Holy Light Clan, Jacob, had already surrendered to him, Fang Xingjian would naturally not leave him in the lurch. Moreover, half of the Holy Light Clan's assets had been sent to Sun City, and there were also people from the gold-robed mages in Sun City. They had even swept through the entire Northern Ice region previously. Fang Xingjian could not let these people off the hook. Do any of you know the Sun City? Fang Xingjian's gaze swept across the crowd as he asked calmly. I know him. Audrey stepped forward. This #1 beauty in the Northern Ice region, the young miss of the Pop clan, an influential clan in the Northern Ice region, said, I grew up in Sun City and am very familiar with it. Fang Xingjian nodded, raised his palms slightly, and flew toward the sky together with Audrey. Lead the way. In that instant, the two of them turned into two streams of light and flew toward Sun City. With Fang Xingjian's current speed, it would be a piece of cake for him to cross the entire land. Even though he was carrying Audrey, his speed was still very fast. After pausing a few times to get his bearings, under Audrey's guidance, the two of them arrived in the sky above Sun City within a few minutes. Looking at the brightly lit city under his feet, Fang Xingjian's eyes narrowed slightly. For long swords behind him pierced through spatial gaps, sweeping out toward the borders of the entire city. Since the Gold Mage King had already discovered his existence, then with the speed and abilities of a divine-level expert, it was very likely that Sun City had made preparations as well. If the other party possessed a movement akin to light speed and was a Tier 2 divine-level expert, then even Fang Xingjian would not be able to stop them easily. Therefore, the moment he arrived, he did not try to gain the upper hand by making a show of strength. Instead, he started to set up a sword formation in secret. He wanted to encompass the entire Sun City within the Celestial Eradication sword formation. As long as he set up the Celestial Eradication sword formation, he would have the confidence to go up against even Tier 5 divine-level existences. While he was setting up the sword formation, he also planned to scout out some information. Simultaneously, he looked at Audrey and asked, Does your clan have any influence here? Let's go over and take a look first. Audrey nodded and led Fang Xingjian toward a manor in the north of the city. It was the Pop clan's house in Sun City. One of his uncles stayed here and managed the Pop clan's business here. This was also the largest manor in Sun City, and it showed how wealthy the Pop clan was. Right now, the entire Sun City was under martial law. The local government was almost paralyzed, and all the commoners were hiding in their own homes, not daring to come out. Fang Xingjian and Audrey darted through the spatial gaps like two ghosts, passing through the corridors and halls. They saw countless aristocrats walking to and fro, and people of repute in the Northern Ice region could be seen walking to and fro with a cup of wine in their hands. Clearly, they were holding a banquet. What's going on? Audrey said in surprise. The Stan clan, the Yuhun clan, the Lushan clan. Why are all the aristocrats in the Northern Ice region here? Fang Xingjian frowned slightly and said, the gold-robed mages have swept through the entire Northern Ice region. By the looks of it, their main forces are probably in Sun City. Go and ask around and see if you can find traces of Jacob or that gold-robed mage. Right now, the Celestial Eradication Sword formation had yet to encompass the entire Sun City, so Fang Xingjian did not wish for his will to sweep out and alert the enemy. After all, from the second tier of the divine level onward, one's attacks and movements would be close to light speed. Even Fang Xingjian would find it hard to stop them. Therefore, Audrey appeared in a flash after turning a corner. Fang Xingjian stood in the spatial gaps, following behind Audrey. Yo, isn't this Audrey? Haha. Audrey, I heard that you were still in the Great Western region earlier on. When did you come back? You've come back this time around to meet Lord Shursho, right? As the top beauty in the Northern Ice region and the young miss of the Pop clan, Audrey attracted the gazes of countless aristocrats at the banquet almost the moment she appeared. With just a few words, she managed to find out about the current situation. Half a month ago, the gold-robed mages had arrived in the Northern Ice region, and the one leading them was a mage called Shursho. This person was a Tier 3 divine level expert and was a legendary character from the older generation who was of the same generation as the Gold Mage King. Over several decades, he had accumulated an endless amount of resources and had also studied countless black magic. This time around, the world's metamorphosis had allowed him to strive for Tier 3 of the divine level. It could be said that he had accumulated a lot of experience and strength. He was the one who led the team to sweep through the Northern Ice region, suppressing the entire Northern Ice region and making it tremble in fear. Even the local government did not dare to show any signs of resistance, let alone some factions and aristocrats. Chapter 695. Almost the entire Northern Ice region was under the control of the gold-robed mages. Audrey started to anxiously find out about the situation of her Pop clan, as well as the Henry clan, which had been suppressed by Fang Xingjian previously. When the 8-directional Crimson Dragon had descended upon the Northern Ice region, the undying Xia had wanted to snatch Audrey away. However, Fang Xingjian had killed Xia's clone on the spot and even subdued the head of the Henry clan. His prowess had shaken the Northern Ice region. However, the arrival of the gold-robed mages had clearly changed the situation. Just as Audrey was anxiously trying to find out about the current situation of her clan, the head of the Pop clan, Audrey's father, Andolph, took a few steps forward and dashed over like a bolt of lightning. He rushed up to Audrey and said, "Audrey, thank goodness you're fine." "Father." Audrey heaved a sigh of relief. However, her gaze suddenly turned toward another person. It was the head of the Henry clan, who had set up a formation and used the corpses of the 4 ancestors to go up against Fang Xingjian. However, he had been easily suppressed. He had even used the information regarding the formation to hand it over to Fang Xingjian in exchange for his life. Right now, the head of the Henry clan appeared to be arrogant and high-spirited. There was no sign of the depression he had shown in the past. Seeing Audrey's gaze, he smiled and said, "Audrey, it's good that you're fine. When we found out that you went to the 7 great clans as a guest, your father and I were worried that something had happened to you." "Why? Didn't you meet Devon and the others?" Audrey's gaze flickered. She did not reply to the head of the Henry clan. Instead, she looked at her father and communicated with him through information currents. "Father, what's going on? Didn't the gold-robed mages come to the Northern Ice region? Are you guys all right?" Audrey's father smiled bitterly and replied through information currents, "The entire Northern Ice region is now under the rule of the gold-robed mages. Even our Pop clan has to act according to their wishes. However, by the looks of things, although they're domineering, they haven't reached an unacceptable level. Based on their actions during this period of time, they're planning to develop in the Northern Ice region for the long term." When the head of the Henry clan saw their actions, he understood that the 2 of them were communicating with each other. He waved his hand and interrupted their communication, saying, "All right, Audrey, I know that you don't understand the current situation too well, but I can't do anything about it. Right now, Lord Shursho was holding down the fort in the Northern Ice region. The entire northern ice region, from the government, clans, factions, academies to the gangs, trade associations, and financial groups, had all submitted to the mages. As for the matters of the aristocratic families, I will be in charge of them for the time being. Audrey, you can look for me if you need anything. Audrey frowned slightly. Although she had expected this, she still could not help but ask, "Father, have you and the head of the Henry clan joined the gold-robed mages?" Audrey's father frowned slightly and did not reply. The head of the Henry clan said, "The Mage Association has a legacy of 10 million years and is a colossal existence that has dominated the world. Its background is unimaginably deep, and in history, only the Holy See of Truth can compete with it. The legacies, powers, and resources that the Mage Association holds are far from what the Empire can compare to. Right now, the Empire's royal family has joined forces with the Mage Association. Based on the latest news that I've received, a few major factions in the Mage Association will be holding down the fort in the other 7 regions, with the exception of the Central region. From then on, their legacies will be passed down, and they will be completely integrated with the Empire." What? So that's how it is? Then wouldn't the Empire be split into 8? So that's how it is. Then does that mean that our northern ice region will be under the gold-robed mages' management in the future? The arrival of the head of the Henry clan had already attracted the attention of many people in the surroundings. When these aristocrats, cultivators, and clan heads heard what Henry said, they immediately revealed great astonishment. Their wavering hearts all became firm. What? Audrey listened to this scene in astonishment, as if she had not expected that the Mage Association would make such a great move. Seeing the astonished expressions of the people in the surroundings, the corners of the Henry clan's heads' lips curled up slightly, revealing a hint of pride. He had received this news from Sure Show 1 day ago. The reason he was saying this was to show off his status in the eyes of the gold-robed mages. A short and plump, wealthy merchant said worriedly, "Will the Krieg royal family be willing to do this? They won't break out into a fight, right?" "That's right. What if a war breaks out?" Another clan head from a wealthy clan said. However, the head of the Henry clan waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, they won't break out into a fight." Putting aside the fact that Lord Sure Show is already a Tier 3 Divine level mage, the Lord Gold Mage King has already attained a breakthrough to Tier 5 of the Divine level and is strong enough to dominate the world. Moreover, the Green Mage King, the Red Mage King, and the Purple Mage King are all extremely powerful and are not much weaker than the Gold Mage King. Moreover, the Mage Association's top person, the Black Mage King, will be watching over the world. Even if the Holy See of Truth were to come, we'll still be able to fight them. Hearing the Henry clan's head mention the many Mage Kings in the Mage Association, everyone present was on tenterhooks. However, at the thought of the power they contained, it was as if they had just taken a tranquilizer. It was true that the world was getting increasingly chaotic. It would be best if they could have a big tree like the Gold Mage King to support them. Henry smiled as he looked at everyone's reactions. He knew that he had gradually planted the seeds of the Mage Association's prestige. In the future, as the pressure from the mage's prestige increased, he would be able to command these great clans as he pleased. Just then, a white-haired elderly man walked out while holding onto a walking stick. Seeing the elderly man's appearance, everyone present was astonished once again. "Lord Governor, even the governor is here?" It seems that even the government has acknowledged the Mage Association's status. That white-haired elderly man holding onto a walking stick was the person who held the highest authority in the Northern Ice region in name, the Northern Ice region's governor. He stood next to Henry and said calmly, "The Gold Mage King's reputation and abilities are both awe-inspiring. His Majesty has also issued a decree that the Gold Mage faction will forever rule over the Northern Ice region. Everyone here is a reputable character in the Northern Ice region. Please cooperate well." Hearing the Northern Ice region's governor's words, everyone present was left speechless. To think that even King Alexander had acknowledged the status of the gold-robed mages. The short and plump wealthy merchant said, "Sigh, it seems that the Mage Association's plans to take over the world is inevitable. That's right. The Northern Ice region will probably belong to the gold-robed mages from now on. The person who spoke was the leader of a faction. His eyes were filled with resignation. With the way things were, even the governor and the head of the Henry clan had completely surrendered to the gold-robed mages. What else could the small factions like them do? However, Audrey's father noticed Audrey's indignant expression and said to her through information currents, "Audrey, don't be rash. The gold-robed mages ruling over the Northern Ice region is already something that will happen naturally. It's an irresistible trend, and no one will be able to stop it." Audrey shook her head. Her mind was still filled with the domineering scene of Fong Xingjian stomping on Devon and crushing the Gold Mage King's clone. Chapter 696. Audrey said to her father through information currents, "Father, you're wrong. Back then, we submitted to Fong Xingjian and were on the second prince's side." "Sigh, Audrey, forget about Fong Xingjian," Audrey's father advised. "No matter how strong Fong Xingjian is, how can he be a match for the Mage Association? I heard that he was in the 7 great clans previously. Did you meet him? Right now, Lord Devon has gone to deal with the 7 great clans. Fong Xingjian has probably been defeated by him." Audrey looked at her father and shook her head in disappointment. However, Audrey's father thought that Audrey had not thought things through and continued to persuade her. He then said, "Audrey, it's good that you've come today. Later on, Lord Shirshou's son, Shir, will be coming as well. You should get to know him well." "Father, you..." Audrey looked at her father in disbelief. Her father smiled bitterly and helplessly. "Audrey, I'm doing this for your own good. Shir is Lord Shirshou's only descendant and has received Shirshou's unparalleled favor. He is also in his prime, suave, and extremely talented. Not only is he a great genius in the gold-robed faction, but he has also attained a breakthrough to tier 1 of the divine level. There will only be benefits for you to be with him. There will be no disadvantages." Audrey's gaze was filled with disappointment and coldness as she looked at her father. Although she knew that he was doing this for the good of her clan, his behavior still disappointed her. At this moment, there was a commotion in the distance, and an exceptionally handsome young man in a golden robe walked in. A golden-robed man, who was also a magus, followed closely behind him with a respectful look on his face. Seeing the young man's appearance, Henry's eyes lit up, and he immediately walked up. "Lord Shir, you're finally here. Everyone has been waiting for you." Shir smiled, appearing calm and warm. However, if one were to take a closer look, they would be able to see a hint of arrogance in the depths of his eyes. This was the habit of all mages. Other than the people from the Mage Association and the Holy See of Truth, the other influences in the world did not pay much attention to them. The nobles, aristocratic families, officials, and wealthy merchants in front of him were all influential figures. But in Shir's eyes, they were nothing more than insects that he could easily crush to death. Therefore, Shir smiled reservedly at the head of the Henry clan and did not say anything else. On the contrary, the aristocrats in the surroundings crowded over, trying to get into Shir's good books. It was as if they all hoped that their influences would be able to gain more benefits in the Northern Ice region in the future. Shir dealt with them one by one. Most of the time, he would just nod his head in a lofty manner. It was as if he was too stingy to even glance at these experts, wealthy merchants, and officials. However, the people in the surroundings did not seem to care. After all, they were unable to come into contact with the Gold Mage King, and Shirshou was also high and mighty like a heavenly god. They could only think of ways to curry favor with Shir. So what if he was incomparably arrogant? In their eyes, Shir's status was even more noble than the Empire's royal family. Even if it's the Empire's royal family and the legacy of the ancient path of hell, how can they compare to the Mage Association? Lord Shirshou is an expert who is second only to the Gold Mage King in the gold-robed faction. Shir is almost like a character who is like a prince. If we can get into his good books, our clan will be able to do whatever we want in the Northern Ice region. Countless people approached Shir with such thoughts in their minds. causing this young gold-robed mage to become the center of attention in the entire banquet. The head of the Henry clan was observing the situation. When he saw a hint of impatience flashing in Shirshir's eyes, he immediately waved his hand to dismiss everyone. Shirshir nodded. I heard from my father that amongst the many great clans in the Northern Ice region, the Henry clan has the most ancient legacy and a strong background. In the future, our gold-robed faction will still need the support of the Henry clan's head when it comes to governing the Northern Ice region. That's for sure, the head of the Henry clan said respectfully. Patriarch Henry said with a respectful expression, Sirs, all of you are top-notch experts in the world. To be able to be of service to all of you is my Henry clan's good fortune. Just then, the head of the Henry clan, who had been observing Shirshir attentively, suddenly noticed that when Shirshir's gaze swept past Audrey, there was finally a hint of astonishment in his indifferent gaze. The head of the Henry clan smiled. That's the #1 beauty in our Northern Ice region, the Pop clan's Audrey. Oh, a hint of interest flashed in Shirshir's eyes, and for the first time since his appearance, he spoke in a questioning tone. The head of the Henry clan was a sly old fox. When he heard Shirshir's tone, he immediately understood what he meant and said, Haha, Audrey has always admired Sir's talent. The two of you are a perfect match and can have a good chat. I'll call them over. With that, he sent information currents to Audrey and her father, asking Audrey to come over quickly. However, Audrey was not moved at all. Audrey's father persuaded, Audrey, at least go over and have a chat. It's fine if it's just a chat, right? If you give Shirshir too much face, it'll probably be hard for our Pop clan to survive in the Northern Ice region. Audrey let out a sigh and said, Father, you're wrong. The Northern Ice region wasn't the world of the gold-robed mages in the past, and it probably won't be the world of the gold-robed mages in the future either. When the Henry clan saw that Audrey did not move after a long time, his countenance sank. He thought that Audrey did not know how to appreciate favors just because of her beauty. He called out, Audrey, come over. Lord Shirshir wishes to meet you. He shouted this out, wanting to force Audrey to come over. However, Audrey merely threw him an indifferent glance, lowered her eyelids, and said, Henry clan's head, have you forgotten that you were defeated by Xinjiang a few months ago and swore to be loyal to the second prince? How long has it been since then? And you've already changed sides. Hearing Audrey's words, the countenance of the Henry clan's head turned grim. He had been badly beaten up by Fong Xinjiang, and even the remains of his 4 ancestors had been destroyed. This matter had always been a humiliation to him. Hearing Audrey say this, how could he not be infuriated? He suppressed his anger and said, Miss Audrey, as the saying goes, a good man chooses a good tree to perch on. In the past, Fong Xinjiang used violence to force and threaten our Henry clan to lower our heads. Right now, Lord Shirshir has come to the Northern Ice region. The gold-robed mages have dominated the world for several thousand years, and Lord Gold Mage King is a top-notch expert, a Tier 5 divine level existence. What's wrong with me submitting to the Lord's demeanor? Audrey's head remained lowered as she sighed and said, The clan head is so fickle. Aren't you afraid that Xinjiang will kill you when he returns? Ha ha. The Henry clan's head laughed out loud. Fong Xinjiang is just a young brat. In the past, he relied on his sword arts from who knows where to not show any respect to the royal family and seniors, acting tyrannically and wreaking havoc everywhere. However, right now, Lord Shirshir is in the Sun City. His gold faction black magic is unrivaled in the world, and he can control time and lifespan. How can a mere Fong Xinjiang be a match for him? Moreover, it's said that Fong Xinjiang is hiding in the Holy Light clan. However, Lord Devon has already led a team into the depths of the snowy mountains, and the 7 great clans have all been suppressed. However, even when the Holy Light clan's head, Jacob, was suppressed, Fong Xinjiang still did not appear. Right now, over half of the Holy Light clan's wealth has been sent to the Sun City, but Fong Xinjiang still hasn't appeared. Chapter 697. The head of the Henry clan let out a cold laugh. Fang Xingjian probably won't dare to appear in this lifetime. This was the first time everyone present had heard of this news. The influence of the 7 great clans was deeply rooted, covering all aspects of the empire. They were hidden in the dark and controlled great influences. Most people did not know about the existence of the 7 great clans. However, when some of the elderly people present and some of the higher-ups heard about the 7 great clans, their gazes changed. A plump, wealthy merchant asked puzzledly, "What are the 7 great clans? Why haven't I heard of them before? Why is Fang Xingjian hiding there?" Next to the wealthy merchant, the Northern Ice region's governor said solemnly, "The 7 great clans are the 7 great clans that were left behind when the empire was founded." As he recounted the background of the 7 great clans, some of the experts present who did not know about it broke out in cold sweat. Other than the Krieg royal family, there were still 7 great clans among the 8 divine-level experts who had founded the empire. The 7 great clans had several centuries of legacies, produced many geniuses, and expanded their influence across the entire empire. As the Northern Ice region's governor recounted the story, a magnificent picture seemed to appear before everyone's eyes. And now, such a terrifying 7 great clans have been suppressed by the gold-robed mages. On the other side, another bald old man said slowly, "It's rumored that among the 7 great clans, there are 6 clan heads who have exchanged manuals and comprehended remarkable abilities together, cultivating to the divine level. There are a total of 6 divine-level experts holding down the fort. May I ask Lord Shur if this is true?" Looking at the old man who had asked the question, everyone present mumbled to themselves, "It's the regional chief? He's a person with real authority who's second only to the governor. But by the looks of it, he's already submitted to the gold-robed mages. Sigh, it's the trend of the times, the trend of the times." Hearing the bald old man's words, Shur nodded and said, "I heard from Martial Uncle that there are indeed 6 Tier 1 divine-level experts among them. Martial Uncle even helped them refine a divine weapon. However, since Martial Brother Devon has suppressed the 7 great clans, these 6 divine-level experts have probably surrendered as well." Shur's martial uncle was naturally the Gold Mage King, who was of the same generation as Shur. However, it was clear that Shur did not understand the real situation. It was also possible that Devon had not passed on all the information to Shur, or that Shur had not told Shur about it. However, after hearing Shur's story, everyone present was astonished once again. To think that even 6 divine-level experts from the 7 great clans had been defeated, and it was merely a Tier 1 divine-level gold-robed mage who had taken action? At this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with deep fear and dread. All their previous thoughts were swallowed into their stomachs. The head of the Henry clan broke into a satisfied smile. He knew that the gold-robed mage's authority had gradually taken root in everyone's hearts. Therefore, he looked at Audrey once again and said, "Audrey, come over. I know that you're grateful to Fang Xingjian for saving you from Xia. But this person's wild nature is hard to tame, and he's stubborn. It's really hard to use him. Why don't you?" The head of the Henry clan guided Audrey with the tone of an elder who had experienced the same thing. It was as if he was saying that he was doing all this for her own good. However, when he was halfway through his words, his pupils suddenly widened, and he stared behind Audrey. It was as if all the hair on his body had stood up. "Oh, is that so?" Under the Henry clan's astonished gazes, Fang Xingjian walked out slowly from void space. The celestial eradication sword formation encompassed the entire Sun City. The next step was to let Shur out. Looking at Fang Xingjian, who had suddenly appeared, and the Henry clan's head, who was suddenly stunned, Shur frowned and said, "Henry clan's head, who is he?" Fang Xingjian. The head of the Henry clan was stunned for a moment before he immediately smiled coldly. "You still dare to come to Sun City? Oh, you're Fang Xingjian? To think that Senior Devon didn't manage to find you, but to think that you still dare to come to Sun City. You're quite bold." Shur threw a slight glance toward Fang Xingjian, nodded, and said, "It's true that you have some talent. You specialize in sword arts, right?" I'll give you a chance. As my guard, with me protecting you, that Emperor Alexander won't dare to make things difficult for you." Fang Xingjian did not reply and merely looked toward the head of the Henry clan first. His gaze swept out like sword light, and the latter's entire body shattered, completely slashed into dust. "You're a despicable person who deserves death." With an agonizing cry, the Henry clan's head's body was completely crushed by the infiltrating void sword intense. The martial will of the Henry clan's head floated out and slowly reassembled in midair. "Fang Xingjian, how dare you make a move?" For a moment, everyone was astonished. No one had expected that Fang Xingjian would dare to make a move in Sun City. Countless thoughts flashed through everyone's minds at lightning speed. What a joke. Sure, are both here. Isn't he afraid of death? Lunatic, he's really a lunatic. This guy is really like how the rumors say, killing people at the slightest disagreement. But he's finished this time around. Right now, there's a gold-robed mage guarding this place. He's just courting death. Under everyone's astonished gazes, killing intent surged throughout Shurshu's body. He glared at Fang Xingjian and shouted, "Be ****starred. How dare you kill people before me? It's useless even if you kneel down and admit your mistake now." Fang Xingjian threw him a cold glance. "Slap yourself." As he said that, Shurshu swung his hand across the air. Instinctively, he performed black magic consecutively. Golden light burst forth, and the gracefulness of time was activated. The area within a range of 100 meters slowed down, but it was ineffective. The golden martial will blocked before him, but it was still ineffective. The golden light shattered, and the palm force smashed into his face across space. With a bang, under everyone's astonished gazes, Shurshu was sent flying with a slap. He spun 720 degrees, smashed through over 10 small buildings, and then fell into the ruins. However, at the next moment, golden light burst forth, and he dashed out from the ruins. He glared at Fang Xingjian, his eyes filled with hatred and apprehension. However, he did not dare to make a move directly. Fang Xingjian's earlier means of disregarding black magic had left him with a lingering fear. He could only stare at Fang Xingjian and say, "Fang Xingjian, are you going to make an enemy out of our Mage Association? Do the people from the Mage Association only know how to say this?" Fang Xingjian said coldly, then kneeled down and said it. With that, he pressed down with his hand and activated the Celestial Eradication sword formation. Layers and layers of infiltrating void sword cheese darted out from void space, pressing down toward Shurshu's body. With a bang, Shurshu dropped to his knees, and the killing intent in his eyes seemed to have condensed into a material form. Everyone looked at this scene in a daze, as if they were completely stunned by Fang Xingjian's series of actions. "How dare you?" The gold-robed mage, who had been following behind Shurshu, let out a furious bellow as well. Golden light flashed on his body, turning into a big hand that grabbed out toward Fang Xingjian. Impudent! Fang Xingjian did not even look and slashed down with his sword. The big golden hand shattered, and the gold-robed mage was sent flying out, dropping to his knees together with Shurshu. You can kneel together with him as well. Fang Xingjian. When had Shurshu ever suffered such humiliation before? He was so furious that he was trembling. He glared at Fang Xingjian like a wild beast that was on the verge of death. "If you say another word of crap, I'll kill you," Fang Xingjian said coldly. Shurshu was so stunned that his face turned red that he did not say another word. However, at the next moment, accompanied by a sigh, a golden silhouette descended from the sky and appeared next to Shurshu. Shurshu shouted excitedly, "Father!" However, at the next moment, the other party had already slapped his face, causing Shurshu to spit out fresh blood. The Henry clan's head was stunned, and everyone present was in a daze. Chapter 698. Shurshu was the second in command among the gold-robed mages. He had suppressed the entire northern ice region single-handedly and was a Tier 3 divine level expert. At the very least, at this point in time, In less than half a year after the world's metamorphosis, a Tier 3 divine level expert would definitely be considered a top-notch expert in the world. Moreover, he was also a gold-robe mage. Therefore, when Sure had appeared, Sure had been very excited, looking forward to his father taking revenge for him. Hope also surged in the Henry clan's head's heart, hoping that Sure would be able to defeat Fang Xingjian and reconstruct his physical body. Everyone present was on tenterhooks, not knowing what this second-in-command among the gold-robed mages would do. Will he fight it out with Fang Xingjian? Tier 3 of the divine level, and a gold-robed mage at that. I wonder if Fang Xingjian will be a match for him. Sure is too powerful. His black magic can distort time. Probably only the Emperor in the entire empire will be able to defeat him. Many thoughts flashed in everyone's minds. The Pop clan's head, Audrey's father, looked at Audrey with great hatred and said disappointedly through information currents, "Audrey, look at what you've done. You've pushed our clan to the opposite side of the gold-robed mages. If the Pop clan were to fall in the future, it'll all be your fault." Audrey did not say anything. She only shook her head with disappointment in her eyes. She was increasingly disappointed with her clan and her father. However, amidst everyone's astonished gazes, Sure appeared next to Sure and then slapped him on the face. Sure was stunned. He looked at Sure in disbelief, as if he could not understand why Sure had done so much. Sure paid no heed to Sure's stunned expression. Instead, he turned to look at Fang Xingjian and said, "Mr. Fang, it's my fault for not teaching my son well. Please excuse me." When everyone heard Sure's words, they were all dumbfounded. To think that the gold-robed mages, the second-in-command among the gold-robed mages, Sure, who was a Tier 3 divine level expert, had submitted to Fang Xingjian. The Henry clan's head's face was filled with disbelief, as if he could not believe everything that was happening before his eyes. Audrey's father was also in a daze, unable to understand what was happening. What's going on? Why did Sure admit defeat? How could this be? Could it be that Fang Xingjian? Could it be that his strength is far beyond what we know? Sure also found it hard to accept the result in front of him. He stood up abruptly, looked at Sure, and said, "Father, what are you doing?" He provoked the Sorcerer Association in public. "Don't tell me you want to..." Before he could finish speaking, he was once again sent flying by Sure's palm, rolling tens of meters away. At the same time, a furious will rang out in his mind. It was Sure's voice. "Shut up if you don't want to die. Fang Xingjian is no longer someone you can provoke. You'd better behave yourself." Sure stared at Sure in a daze. He could even see a hint of deep disappointment in Sure's eyes. He knew that his performance had disappointed Sure. But why? Sure gritted his teeth, still unable to accept this outcome. Sure sighed. Thinking of the information the Gold Mage King had given him earlier, a hint of astonishment flashed in his gaze as he looked at Fang Xingjian. A few minutes ago, Sure, who was cultivating black magic on his own, had received a message from the Gold Mage King. "Sure, Fang Xingjian will probably arrive at Sun City soon. Don't get into a conflict with him." "Why? Although that guy has some sword arts, he's not a mage and is just an ordinary knight. He probably won't even be able to deal with Devin and Sure. He has already killed Devin earlier. I rushed over with the power of the time primordial spirit, but I was also shattered by him with a single move." The time primordial spirit was the gold-robed mage's unique black magic. It borrowed the power of diabolic energy to reconstruct one's martial will. Not only was it extremely sturdy, but could also solidify black magic, allowing them to perform black magic without the need to form seals or recite incantations. How is that possible? He killed your avatar? That's right. Moreover, he's immune to black magic and ordinary diabolic energy. Only the power we have after refining diabolic energy into our own martial will be effective against him. Hearing this, Sure was even more astonished. Having cultivated black magic for over 100 years, he found it hard to accept that there was an existence in this world that was immune to black magic. This matter is also a top secret in the association. Only a few related personnel and Mage King level experts know about it. You must keep this a secret for now and not tell anyone else. Otherwise, the association's foundation will be shaken. I understand. Shersho accepted this information with great difficulty and continued. Then are we going to retreat? The Gold Mage King said, there's no need. It's true that Feng Xingjian is a unique existence. He's probably already attained a breakthrough to Tier 3 of the divine level. However, if it's not because Old Black, the King, and the others are preparing for the evil god summoning ritual, we might be able to launch a surprise attack and kill him. Right now, the evil god summoning ritual is of utmost importance. How many benefits we can get from this ritual will affect the gold-robed faction's future achievements. Therefore, we mustn't make an enemy out of Feng Xingjian and cause unnecessary trouble. Moreover, I can sense from the River of Time that Feng Xingjian will be of great help to the evil god summoning ritual. Therefore, remember, even if he doesn't want to cooperate, don't make an enemy out of him. If we can get him to help us and cooperate with us, that would be for the best. As for dealing with him, we'll talk about it after the ritual is completed. I understand. The news brought by the Gold Mage King caused Shersho to be astonished one after another. Firstly, to think that Feng Xingjian had reached Tier 3 of the divine level and was immune to black magic. Did this mean that even Shersho might not be a match for him? The more terrifying thing was that this person was related to the evil god summoning ritual. However, Shersho had not expected that after this slight delay, the people on his side had offended Feng Xingjian again. At the gathering, Shersho had already recovered from his memories. He looked at Feng Xingjian and said, Mr. Feng, it's true that we weren't too clear about your relationship with the Northern Ice region previously. I've always been very impressed with your sword arts. Even my senior martial brother has always had great praises for you. However, His Majesty has handed the Northern Ice region to us, the gold-robed faction, to protect it. If Mr. is willing, you can join us and govern the Northern Ice region together with us. Hearing Shersho's words of showing weakness and trying to win Feng Xingjian over, everyone present was completely stunned, especially when he said that the Gold Mage King had great praises for Feng Xingjian's sword arts. They were completely stunned. What was the Gold Mage King? He was an expert who could dominate over the world and be ranked in the top 20 or even top 10 amongst all the divine level experts in the world. He was a top-notch character who could go up against the Holy Sea of Truth. For even someone like him to admire Feng Xingjian's sword arts, did it not mean that Feng Xingjian's sword arts were already top-notch in the world? Chapter 699. Shersho looked at Shersho and Feng Xingjian, unable to accept this. He could not understand why his father would do something like this. Was Feng Xingjian really that terrifying? The countenance of the Henry clan's head also changed. Now that things had come to this, he could no longer be bothered about why Feng Xingjian would have such abilities. He found it hard to imagine what would happen to him and the Henry clan if Feng Xingjian were to join the gold-robed mages and govern the Northern Ice region together. However, it seemed like there was no longer any room for him to speak. The countenance of the Pop clan's head, Audrey's father, also turned pale, and he looked at Feng Xingjian in a daze. At the thought of how he had pushed such a great character away, his face was filled with regret. Audrey's father looked at Audrey and asked through information currents, Audrey, what on earth happened? Why does the gold-robed mages hold Feng Xingjian in such high regard? Audrey also looked at Shersho, a little surprised and doubtful. She replied hesitantly, I don't know, but earlier on, Xingjian killed that divine-level mage by the name of Devin and then killed one of the Gold Mage King's clones. Hearing this, Audrey's father was even more astonished. If Audrey had told him about this earlier, he would not have believed her and would have doubted whether it was true. However, with Shersho's actions right before his eyes, how could he possibly not believe her? However, under everyone's gaze, Feng Xingjian raised an index finger and shook it a little, saying not enough. Shersho frowned slightly and said, What other requests does Mr. Feng have? Firstly, spit out all the things you've gathered from the 7 great clans. Release Jacob as well. Secondly, scram out of the northern ice region and don't create trouble in the Empire. Then I can treat it as if nothing has happened. Hearing this, Sure, who was standing behind Sure, could not hold it in any longer. He pointed at Fong Xingjian and said, "Be asterisk starred. Do you know who you're asking for?" "I." Before he finished speaking, a sword light flashed in the void, and a third of his neck was cut off. However, when a third of his neck was cut off, it was blocked by another condensed golden light. Shure's face was filled with intense fury, but he still managed to suppress it. He looked at Fong Xingjian and said coldly, "Fong Xingjian, don't go overboard. We can return the items from the 7 great clans to you. However, the Northern Ice region will be the base of our gold-robed faction in the future. You're neither an official nor a clan or faction here. Why do you have to ask us to leave?" Sure clutched his neck as he looked at Fong Xingjian in shock and anger, as if he couldn't believe that Fong Xingjian would make a move just like that. Fong Xingjian calmly glanced at Sure and said, "I said, if you say another word of nonsense, I'll kill you." As he spoke, he pointed a finger at Sure. "Stop, Fong Xingjian." Sure was enraged, and as golden light burst out, he wanted to help Sure fend off the sword light. However, just as he was about to move, the celestial eradication sword formation exploded. Endless infiltrating void sword intense encompassed his body, causing him to be unable to move at all. Violent golden martial will attacked wildly, creating countless spatial ripples. However, it was unable to break through the control of the celestial eradication sword formation. How is this possible? What kind of power is this? Sure let out a furious bellow, and his golden martial will turned into a huge wheel. The huge golden wheel was formed from countless small wheels, and the countless small wheels were formed from even smaller wheels. There seemed to be an endless amount of time flowing within the endless wheels, and all the powers of the past, present, and future seemed to be contained within them. This was Shure's unique technique, the Doomsday Wheel. It condensed endless martial will and connected with the profoundness of time in black magic. It was a secret technique that could accelerate the collapse of all physical substances. It was not considered black magic, but pure martial arts. It was also the only ultimate move that Sure reckoned could deal with Fong Xingjian. The huge wheel collided against the sword cheese, and the celestial eradication sword formation seemed to have the feeling of collapsing. Looking at the huge wheel condensed from golden martial will, Fong Xingjian's brows twitched, as if he was a little astonished by this huge wheel's power. He raised his hand and clenched it. Endless infiltrating void sword cheese shot out from all directions, wrapping around Sure and the huge wheel like a huge cocoon. Sure unleashed his powers wildly, but he was still unable to break through the power of the celestial eradication sword formation. No matter how many sword cheese he accelerated and collapsed, there would be even more sword cheese gushing up, suppressing him. Therefore, he could only watch as Fong Xingjian tapped out with a finger. Shure's body broke down completely, dissipating into countless light particles with the wind. However, the black magic, the Time King's blessing, was activated, and Sure recovered very quickly. However, he was once again killed by Fong Xingjian with a single tap. Sure was killed consecutively for over 30 times. In the beginning, he was bellowing furiously, followed by nervousness and fury, and eventually, he kept on begging for mercy. However, he was unable to stop Fong Xingjian from killing him completely. Seeing that his son had died before him, Sure did not continue to struggle. Instead, he sat up cross-legged and looked at Fong Xingjian coldly. He was like a wild beast, hiding all of his fury and killing intent to the bottom of his heart. To think that even I'm not a match for him at all. Senior Martial Brother has underestimated Fong Xingjian's power. It's very likely that this person's true power is not much weaker than Senior Martial Brother's. Thinking of this, Shure's heart turned even colder. Now that things have come to this, I can only give up on the Northern Ice region for now. We'll talk about everything after the ritual is over. Everyone watched this silently. They watched as Sure charged left and right before giving up in the end. They watched as Sure was killed time and time again, until he turned into nothingness and died completely. Everyone's hearts were filled with terror. Even though the Henry clan's head only had his martial while floating in midair, he still felt as if he was shivering. When he saw that Sure had also given up on resisting, a hint of viciousness flashed on his face. Suddenly, with a swoosh, he turned into a stream of light and flew out. The transmission speed of martial will was at light speed. Even Fang Xingjian was unable to react in time for him to escape in such an instant. However, after flying out 10 kilometers, he collided into an invisible barrier. Countless infiltrating void, sword, cheese engulfed him, and his martial will was repeatedly shattered, dying out completely. The celestial eradication, sword formation had encompassed the entire Sun City. This was the reason why Fang Xingjian had dared to appear. Under the encompassing of the celestial eradication sword formation, no one would be able to escape from him. Fang Xingjian's actions had also cut off Shu's thoughts of escaping. Releasing the infiltrating void, sword cheese, and letting go of Shu, Fang Xingjian said calmly, "How is it? Where are the things and people?" Shu let out a sigh. Fang Xingjian's sword arts had far surpassed his imagination, and the Gold Mage King's attention had been drawn away by the evil god ritual. Therefore, he could only hold it in for now. Everything is in Sun City. We'll leave the Northern Ice region within a day. However, Fang Xingjian shook his head. "I don't have the time to wait a day for you." With a sweep of his gaze, a stream of sword intent pierced into Shu's body. "All of you scram immediately. I'll leave this stream of sword intent in your body. Don't let me discover any additional movements." Chapter 700. Shu's countenance changed, and he frowned deeply as he sensed the six-sided sword physique in his mind. He silently threw a glance at Fang Xingjian and eventually turned to leave, not daring to show any signs of resistance. Fang Xingjian did not kill him either. He knew that if he were to kill him, the Gold Mage King would definitely not let him go. By then, it would probably not be as simple as just a clone. Since the gold robe mages had already given way, Fang Xingjian was not interested in fighting to the death with them. Seeing Shu leave, everyone present sighed. They then looked at Fang Xingjian, their minds seething as if huge waves were crashing to and fro. Even the gold-robed mages have been chased away just like that. This world is really going to change. Probably not long from now, Fang Xingjian will shake the entire empire. Audrey's gaze as she looked at Fang Xingjian was also filled with splendor, as well as a hint of inferiority. Even with her status as the top beauty in the Northern Ice region, she was still insignificant before Fang Xingjian's achievements. However, Fang Xingjian did not care about these. Through his sword intense and sudden inspiration, he sensed that there seemed to be problems in the Great Western region as well. "Audrey, I'll leave the matters in the Northern Ice region to you." With that, he turned to look at everyone present, especially the Northern Ice region's governor and regional chief. He said coldly, "Go ahead and do it. I'll kill whoever doesn't cooperate." Everyone was agitated by his killing aura, and all of them quickly dropped to the ground and kowtowed, expressing their submission. Fang Xingjian nodded and soared into the sky abruptly. Accompanied by 4 streams of flowing light, he flew toward the Great Western region. Due to Fang Xingjian's great power, the entire Great Western region was extremely unified. All factions, aristocrats, and great clans were under the control of the governor. In addition to the gold that Fang Xingjian had brought back from Earth, the entire Great Western region was extremely wealthy. At every moment, a tremendous amount of resources would be gathered in the Great Western City. They were either used to forge divine weapons, provided for people's cultivation, or used for the construction of the people's livelihood. It could be said that the second prince, or Fang Xingjian's influence in the Great Western region, could be said to be overwhelming. Even if the imperial capital were to pass down an order, it would not be as effective as a single word from Feng Xingjian. The Great Western region could be said to be a country within a country. Due to the wealth that Feng Xingjian had brought with him, the current Great Western city was over 10 times more prosperous than it had been in the past. There were songs and dances everywhere, and it was a scene of prosperity. The market for various materials, ores, and ferocious beasts was extremely prosperous, almost becoming the largest material center in the empire. Such wealth and resources attracted the greed of countless forces. However, with Feng Xingjian's reputation, Prince Philip, the fourth prince, Tyrant, who had engulfed the corpse of a divine-level expert, the governor, the regional chief, and many other experts, there were basically no forces from the few regions in the vicinity who dared to invade the Great Western region. Under such a situation, the fifth prince flew into the sky and looked down at the prosperous city. The corners of his lips curled up into a savage smile. The fifth emperor, who was next to him, sighed and said, "Are you really going to do this? Elder brother, why are you trying to persuade me?" The fifth prince laughed and said, "That Feng Xingjian has been suppressed by the gold-robed mages in the northern ice region and has not dared to come out for almost a month. He's become a real coward. I can take this opportunity to wipe out the influences he has left behind in the Great Western region and snatch away the wealth he has left behind here." Saying this, the fifth prince looked down at the Great Western region with a gaze filled with greed. The wealth that Feng Xingjian had left behind in the Great Western region was far too astonishing. Even the fifth prince's breathing quickened after doing some calculations. If he could raid the Great Western region like this, his future path of cultivation would be even smoother. The fifth emperor shook his head and said, "Aren't you afraid that he'll take revenge on you after he escapes?" "Take revenge on me?" The fifth prince smiled coldly and said, "Just your show alone is enough to make him suffer. Moreover, the Gold Mage King is behind the gold-robed mages. He wants to deal with the 7 great clans in the Northern Ice region. Now that he's trapped by the gold-robed mages in the Northern Ice region, he's courting death. How is it possible for him to escape? Moreover, so what if he escapes?" As the fifth prince spoke, he clenched his fists tightly and said coldly, "Shang has already set his eyes on him. You should understand their strength, right?" Upon hearing the word Shang, a hint of terror appeared on the countenance of this existence, who was one of the 10 great experts in the empire. It's true that this Shang organization is unfathomable. However, if your majesty wishes to go up against the Mage Association with their assistance, you'll be inviting a wolf into your house, the fifth emperor said worriedly. In the future, you'll probably be playing with fire. So what if I'm playing with fire? Is there anything in this world that isn't risky? The fifth prince said calmly. Moreover, it's true that Shang has given me tangible benefits. As the fifth prince spoke, many silver threads darted out from his body. In the blink of an eye, they completely encompassed his body, forming a silver armor. He could feel the traces of electricity surging madly in his body. Then, the power from the depths of the earth, which was thousands of miles away, was transmitted to him through the air, endlessly strengthening his power. The corners of the fifth prince's lips curled up into a satisfied smile. Excellent. Shang really has a strong background. Although the nanotechnology armor they gave me isn't forged from divine-level remains and can't even be considered a divine weapon, it has the power of science and technology. Not only does it have a nuclear-powered engine, but can also directly draw out the powers from the stars and the Earth's core. In terms of pure powers, I'm no longer weaker than a Tier 3 divine-level expert. Looking at the fifth prince who was encompassed by the silver armor, the fifth emperor shook his head. Relying on external objects isn't the right way after all. What are external objects? Weapons are external objects? Armors are external objects. All the cells in the human body have to be replaced every once in a while due to wear and tear. Then is food an external object? Is water an external object? Are the muscles, bones, and nerves that we grow from eating external objects? The fifth prince did not mind and said, Elder brother, how can the difference between internal and external be so clear? If it can be used by me and increase my power, then I'll use it. What's the difference between internal and external? As they spoke, the two of them increased their speed and arrived in the sky above the Great Western Region Regional Academy. However, the moment they appeared, they saw a figure soar into the sky. It was Tyrant, who had betrayed the gray-robed mages and then engulfed the physical body of a divine-level expert. Right now, the moment Tyrant appeared, waves of gray martial will encompass his body, taking the appearance of a huge beast. Many cities, countries, and countless human figures were depicted on the huge beast's body, farming, fighting, and shouting. His martial will have taken the form of a huge beast that carried the world on its back. However, it was still a little blurry and illusory. This was the appearance of the evil god that the gray-robed mages believed in. Clearly, not only had Tyrant attained a breakthrough to the divine level, but he had also condensed his martial will into the appearance of the great evil god. Once he condensed this huge beast into a real and not illusory form, he would be able to strive for the second tier of the divine level. Tyrant soared into the sky. When he saw the silver-armored fifth prince and the fifth emperor behind him, a hint of graveness flashed in his eyes. Chapter 701. What are you guys doing here? Leave immediately, and I won't pursue this matter. Looking at Tyrant, the fifth prince let out a cold laugh and said, "Even Feng Xingjian's lackey wants to stop me?" Right now, he was wearing the nanotechnology armor and had the fifth emperor assisting him in battle. He had no fear at all. As long as the opponent was not an expert at the Mage King level, he would be able to fight or retreat with ease. Then what if I'm included? As the fifth prince spoke, a glow that was like the sun soared into the sky. Encompassed by the white glow, a human figure floated in it. It was Prince Philip. The light all over his body seemed to have materialized, and he was encompassed by a light body that was like the sun. This was the conjured physique that he had condensed his martial will. This veteran expert, who had accumulated several decades of experience, had finally stepped into Tier 2 of the divine level a few months after the world's metamorphosis. Simultaneously, the fourth prince also leaped up. A myriad of sword shadows appeared behind the fourth prince, all of them condensed from layers of green light. Clearly, this genius from the royal family had finally stepped into the divine level after receiving the legacy from the Hades vault and having the world's metamorphosis as his background. He had been cultivating hard day and night. Tyrant, who was at Tier 1 of the divine level, Philip, who was at Tier 2 of the divine level, and the fourth prince, who was at Tier 1 of the divine level. 3 divine level experts stood in 3 different directions, surrounding the fifth prince and the fifth emperor. The martial wills of the 3 experts stacked together, and terrifying powers seethed to and fro, creating circles of ripples in the space. Below the regional academy, countless top students, teachers, Zhou Xingwen, and the others looked at the 5 divine level experts in the sky. In the direction of the great western city, countless experts also turned their gazes over. The prowess of the 5 divine level experts was far too astonishing. How could the experts who were close by not be attracted by them? To think that there are 3 divine level experts in the Great Western Region Regional Academy. How amazing. 3 divine level experts. The people under Feng Xingjian are far too powerful. I wonder who those 2 people are. They're out of luck this time. Zhou Xingwen stood in the academy with Robert, Anthony, and the others standing behind him. Looking at the battlefield in the sky, Zhou Xingwen smiled and said, "They must not have expected that both the fourth prince and tyrant have stepped into the divine level, while Prince Philip has also reached Tier 2 of the divine level. With 3 divine level experts like them keeping watch, the Great Western Region can be said to be as stable as Mount Tai." The gazes of the others also revealed a hint of confidence. This included Zhou Xingwen, Rhoda, and even Anthony, Robert, and a few other first transitionites. Right now, they had all stepped into the second transition. After all, with the world's metamorphosis, the density of ether particles had increased tremendously. Moreover, all of them had developed the 5th level of the mystical prince and had great aptitudes. It would only be a matter of time before they stepped into the divine level. Right now, the strongest few people, such as Anderson, Rhoda, and Zhou Xingwen, had all reached second transition level 29 and were starting to strive for the demigod realm with 5 great perfections. With the addition of the 3 divine level experts in the sky, the influence that Feng Xingjian had left behind in the Great Western region had unknowingly swelled up. It had almost surpassed the divine level influences like the Full Moon Shrine and the 8 directional Crimson Dragon. Therefore, each member's eyes were filled with confidence. If one were to include the 7 great clans Jacob, the Full Moon Shrine's Lan Yu, and the Myriad Stars Palace's astral ancestor. Other than Feng Xingjian, the influence on Feng Xingjian's side had 6 divine level experts. They could be said to be a force that could influence the world situation. Looking at the 3 divine level experts before him, the 5th prince merely smiled coldly. How could 2 Tier 1 divine level experts and a Tier 2 divine level expert be worthy of his attention? A bunch of aboriginals. You guys know nothing about power. The 5th prince let out a cold laugh, and the nanotechnology armor on his body tightened abruptly. Waves of black martial will soared into the sky as he said, "Submit to me, and I can spare your lives." The 4th prince's eyes narrowed. He sensed a familiar aura from the other party's voice and martial will. He asked, "5th brother?" "That's right. 4th brother, you and 2nd brother have been eliminated a long time ago. Why don't you submit to me now? In the future, I'll definitely confer you the title of prince and let you guard over a region for me." The 5th prince looked at everyone with an expression like that of a cat toying with a mouse. It was as if he was not in a hurry to make a move and wanted to slowly toy with them. Hearing the 5th prince's words, the 4th prince laughed and said, "5th brother, you've lost to Feng Xingjian several times in a row, yet you still dare to come over? You're wearing another divine armor. Why? Are you here to give us treasures again?" Hearing the 4th prince's words, the 5th prince's countenance changed, and he said coldly, "You don't know what's good for you. Do you think that Feng Xingjian will be able to come and save you? Right now, he's being surrounded by the gold-robed mages and can't even fend for himself. Moreover, the royal family has a brand new plan and reinforcements, yet father didn't look for you. You've been abandoned." The 4th prince's gaze narrowed. This was something that had been bothering him for the past month. According to the spies he had left behind in the imperial capital, many unfamiliar experts had suddenly appeared in the palace. There were even a few of them who were unfathomable and had caused spatial ripples. They were suspected to be divine-level experts. However, the royal family's power had increased tremendously. A few mage influences had invaded a few regions, yet none of them had come to find the Great Western region. Even the royal family had not contacted him at all, as if they had given up on him. This was also something that he had been feeling puzzled and uneasy about. At the same time, next to the 5 divine-level experts, a green-haired, green-eyed, green-robed lady was chuckling as she flew around. Next to her was a green-haired young lady who looked similar to her, but was much younger. The young lady said, "Sister, are you sure that they'll be able to wipe out the 4th prince and the others?" "Who knows?" The slightly older green-haired lady looked at the battlefield with a smile. "But isn't it quite interesting if they fight?" The young lady said, puzzled, "It's because you want them to fight that you ask for the right to occupy the Great Western region from the association. Then why don't we occupy this place?" "We'll never fight," the green-haired lady said. "It's just that Feng Xingjian's growth has surpassed our expectations. It's time to weaken him a little. Depend on them?" The slightly younger lady said with slight contempt as she threw a glance at the 5th prince. "Don't underestimate him," the older green-haired lady said. "He has the world's best fist arts talent. If it wasn't for Feng Xingjian, he would be the crux to activating the Ring of Time. He might even be able to unify the world in the future, fend off the onslaught, and create an age of prosperity. Right now, he, Tian Yi, and True Lord Qingshan have joined forces and become quite a strong influence. If they were to fight against Feng Xingjian, it would be beneficial to us no matter who wins." The 2 green-haired ladies were conversing at the side, but the 5 divine-level experts seemed to have not noticed them at all. They were unable to see or hear them, and there was no reaction even when the two ladies passed through their bodies. It was the green robe mages, the chaos witches, level 10 black magic, untouchable protection. As the only faction amongst the many mages who did not participate in any battles, they hid in the darkness, changing the entire world's history time and time again. This time around, they were the ones who had encouraged the fifth prince to come to the great western region. Chapter 702. The fifth prince looked at the three of them and said, "How is it? It's impossible for Feng Xingjian to be a match for the Gold Robe King, and the three of you have been abandoned by the Empire. If you join me, you'll only have a chance of survival in the upcoming calamity." Tyrant had long since grown tired of the fifth prince's arrogance. He clenched his fists lightly and said, "Hee, if you want to subdue us, you'll have to win first. This time around, it'll be my turn to strip off your equipment." As he spoke, he struck out with his palm. The god-stunning palm, which was based on the principles of nuclear reactions, was instantly activated. A light pillar that seemed to penetrate through the world suddenly burst out. Not only did it encompass the fifth prince from head to toe, but it also encompassed the Fist Emperor behind him. Terrifyingly high temperatures, shock waves, radiations, and light waves spread out crazily. The cloud layers within a range of several hundred lis were all sent flying, and violent shock waves swept out. If it was not because of the protection from Prince Philip and the fourth prince, the entire academy would have been leveled to the ground. The spot that was struck head-on turned into a stretch of darkness. It was a violent power that had distorted light rays in space. The space suddenly became extremely scorching, and the temperature within a range of several tens of kilometers kept on rising. Such a violent attack could be ranked in the top 10 even amongst Tier 1 divine level experts. However, despite such a violent attack, the fifth prince and the Fist Emperor appeared unscathed after the smoke dispersed and the light pillar dissipated. Not only was the fifth prince completely encompassed by silver armor, but he was also emitting a shiny silver glow. The various heat energy, high radiations, and shock waves that had taken effect on him earlier had all been absorbed by the nanotechnology armor on his body. The Fist Emperor behind him was currently encompassed by a blue giant that was over 100 jongs tall. Each of the pores and lines on the giant's body were extremely clear, and one could even sense the giant's heartbeat and breathing. It was as if the giant was a living creature. Clearly, this was the martial physique that the Fist Emperor had condensed. This veteran divine level expert had also stepped into the second tier of the divine level. At the instant the fifth prince appeared, he appeared behind Tyrant with a flash and grabbed him by the neck. Black martial wool gushed out wildly, encompassing Tyrant's body. "You even used such a childish attack. Who do you think you're fighting?" At the instant he made his move, both the fourth prince and Prince Philip moved simultaneously as well. The fourth prince's sword intent flashed, and the 7 sword techniques that represented the legacy of the Hades vault were performed simultaneously. Waves of power that trembled one's consciousness swept out, wanting to shake the fifth prince's martial will out from his armor. To begin with, the Mystic Abyss Heavenly Emperor's sword arts mainly focused on shaking up one's martial will. Now that the fourth prince had reached the divine level, the trembling force became even stronger. Wherever it passed by, it would cause a series of ripples in the space. On the other side, Prince Philip made his move at the same time, condensing the light all over his body into his palm. Piercing rays of light were emitted from the light, almost enough to blind a second transition knight. A stream of light sword burst out from Prince Philip's palm. The Universal Truth longsword was now performed by him, and its realm was different from before. Wherever the light sword passed by, there would be a stretch of vacuum, expelling all the air and physical particles. It pierced into the fifth prince's body at almost light speed, and the vacuum route also spread to the fifth prince's body. However, the power that could expel all physical matter did not succeed. Not only was the silver nanotechnology armor not torn apart by the repulsive force, but it also shone even brighter, absorbing the power of the white light sword. At the next moment, the fourth prince's trembling sword force also collided into the nanotechnology armor. The power that could shake up one's martial will was intercepted by the nanotechnology armor and then absorbed into it. Looking at the increasingly brighter armor, both the fourth prince and Prince Philip revealed expressions of disbelief in their eyes. However, the fifth prince did not care about their attacks at all. He grabbed Tyrant's hand and swung it forcefully, tossing him up into the sky. Under the reinforcement of the astonishing power, Tyrant instantly broke through 30 times at a supersonic speed, tearing through the atmosphere and flying out toward outer space. However, in the blink of an eye, the fifth prince had already caught up and smashed out another punch toward Tyrant's chest. Tyrant let out a furious bellow, and the beast shadow that was condensed from his martial will also let out a furious bellow. Tyrant punched out, and his fist seemed to contain the weight of countless mountains, rivers, seas, and countries. However, faced with this punch that seemed to have the weight of the mortal world, the fifth prince merely smashed down violently. The two fists collided, and the space within a range of several hundred meters became distorted like a black hole. So what if it's the entire mortal world? Even if you throw the world over, I'll explode it for you to see. The two fists collided, and Tyrant's entire body burst out with a rain of blood. He was unable to fend off the fifth prince's ferocious power at all, and he was almost smashed into a lump of rotten flesh, plunging rapidly toward the ground once again. The fifth prince let out a maniacal laugh, and 12 holes suddenly opened up on the back of the nanotechnology armor. Flame currents that had a length of over 1 kilometer shot out from them, and the air before him seemed to have turned into something material. However, his body smashed through layers of the atmosphere that were like metal plates, bringing along stacks of air currents as he once again caught up to Tyrant. Stop! However, the fourth prince and Philip had caught up once again. The fourth prince's vibrating sword force swept out, while the light sword in Philip's hand brought along stacks of light lumps, blocking before Tyrant. It's useless. The fifth prince punched out again, tearing apart the fourth prince's sword intent. Then he pressed down explosively across space with his palm, crushing the light lumps that Philip had used to protect Tyrant. A world-shaking violence burst out from his body. Even if he did not perform any secret arts, the power of a Tier 3 divine level expert was no longer something that Tyrant and the other two could fend off. This was a difference in pure power. It was like the difference in physical strength between a first grader and a fifth grader. It was as hard to cross over as an abyss. Tyrant was once again smashed into minced meat, but he gave up on squirming. Gray Marshal will darted out, taking on Tyrant's appearance. Stop defending. Let's join forces and attack him. Crush that armor he's wearing. In that instant, the 3 divine level experts made their moves concurrently. Terrifying beast roars rang out from Tyrant's martial will. As he punched out, a feeling as if the entire world was pressing down on him extended out. It was as if the entire world's mountains and rivers were being held in his fist. This was the strongest punch that had integrated the teachings of the gray-robed mages, the image of the gray evil god, and Tyrant's own martial arts experiences. It could be said to be a full power attack from him. The fourth prince also made his move, and a Senluo Six Heavens sword condensed from his martial will appeared in his hand. There seemed to be an elderly man wearing a beaded curtain and a yellow robe appearing behind him. It was the phantom image of the mystic Abyss Heavenly Emperor. As the fourth prince thrust out his sword, the sword's edge cut across space as if it was cutting across water, creating layers of ripples that circled around the fifth prince's body. Philip also unleashed his full power, and all of the white light turned into a light lump that was the size of a thumb. However, it emitted a glow that was comparable to that of the sun. It was as if the entire Great Western region had been illuminated by 2 suns. Within the light lump, not only were physical particles and light barriers expelled, but even radiation, heat energy, and even ether particles were also expelled. Tyrant's fist, the fourth prince's ripples, and Philip's light lumps simultaneously struck out toward the fifth prince. Ah, useless, 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 useless. The fourth prince let out a cold laugh, and a myriad of fist shadows burst out from his body. Tyron's martial will was shattered, turning into many light lumps that squirmed about and attempted to reassemble with great difficulty. The Senluo's six heavens sword that the fourth prince had condensed shattered, and the hard work he had put into condensing his martial will during this period of time had completely failed. The light lump that Philip had unleashed at full power could repel ether particles. However, a silver sphere split out from a nanotechnology armor, wrapping up the entire light lump and pulling it into the fifth prince's chest. A lump of white light suddenly appeared on the fifth prince's chest, and his aura kept on rising, robbing Philip of his powers. With a single move, the three divine-level experts were all defeated. The fifth prince displayed overwhelming prowess, and the entire academy and the entire great western city were in a state of terror. Looking at the three people before him, the fifth prince smiled coldly and said, "Today, I'll let you guys know what it means to break through all techniques with a single power." Chapter 703. Regardless of whether it was Tyrant, Philip, or the fourth prince, all of them looked at the fifth prince in astonishment. The power that the fifth prince displayed had completely surpassed their expectations. The trio's information currents converged, and they started to discuss the current situation at high speed. Tyrant shouted, "How can there be such a thing? What's up with that armor of his? All of our attacks have been absorbed by him." Philip analyzed calmly. "This is a strange armor. Use your martial will to scan it. This armor is alive. It's formed from a metallic life form that is slightly larger than physical particles. Moreover, they are endlessly engulfing the powers of various radiation magnetic fields in the world, then changing, mending, and strengthening themselves." "That's not all," the fourth prince said in astonishment. The fourth prince said in astonishment, "After all of our attacks are transmitted to his body, they'll all be transformed into a high-temperature power by these little things at high speed. Then he'll absorb this high temperature and turn it into his own power." Countless exchanges were completed in that instant. In the blink of an eye, the three divine-level experts had already roughly analyzed the nanotechnology armor. Although they did not know the specific principles behind it, they understood that the fifth prince was able to convert the kinetic energy of attacks into heat energy and then absorb the heat energy to store it. Moreover, the upper limit of this absorption was very high, rendering most of their attacks useless. Just as the three of them were communicating, the fifth prince did not give them any extra time. A tail of flames that was several kilometers long shot out from his back, and he charged out with a world-shaking prowess that was like a myriad of thunderbolts exploding. With a punch, the power distorted the space, bringing up ripples and even blocking out the sunlight in the sky. Break! Before the fifth prince could put up any defense, the protective white light instantly exploded. Then Philip's physical body was smashed by the punch, and a layer of milky white martial will slowly floated out from his corpse. The fourth prince let out an enraged bellow and unleashed the 6 heaven-soaring swords to its extreme. A gush of sword intent that seemed to have come from the depths of hell seethed in his mind. At this moment, the netherworld that the mystic abyss heavenly emperor had left behind in his mind was finally activated at full power. A myriad of sword intents seethed out from his body, and the awe-inspiring sword intents seemed to cause the temperature within a range of 100 lis to drop by several tens of degrees, causing everyone to feel a bone-piercing chill. The netherworld in the fourth prince's mind was the legacy of the mystic abyss heavenly emperor. With the fourth prince's consciousness as the foundation, it drew out the ether particles in void space and recreated a virtual human state. At this moment, the Jade Dynasty's 7 great sword techniques were unleashed completely. It was as if all of the virtual personalities had gathered together to perform the Jade Dynasty's 7 great sword techniques. Simultaneously, Tyrant also unleashed his final powerful move. Gray flames burned all over his body, and his martial will kept on melting. Sacrificing a divine spirit, offering his martial will to the great evil god on the spot in exchange for a tremendous diabolic energy. In that instant, a massive gray palm that was tens of thousands of miles long fell from the skies. This massive palm was completely formed from a rich heretical god force. One could see all sorts of mountains and rivers, animals, flowers, birds, and even countries fighting on its surface. This palm, which was condensed from diabolic energy, was like a real country. It landed down toward the fifth prince, and a seething power tore through void space, causing the sky above the entire great western city to be distorted into darkness. Faced with thousands upon thousands of sword intents from the Jade Dynasty's 7 great sword techniques, as well as the diabolic energy that Tyrant had exchanged for by sacrificing half of his martial will at this moment, the fifth prince's countenance finally turned extremely grim. "Come at me." A furious bellow tore through the atmosphere. "Today, I'll let you guys witness the true power of the nano armor." Behind the fifth prince, 12 spheres rose up one after another. Majestic and endless gravitational waves were emitted from within the 12 silver spheres. Loud rumbling sounds rang out in the ground, trembling and seething incessantly. It was as if there was a huge dragon seething underground. The 12 spheres crazily drew out the power from the planet's core under their feet, and violent heat, kinetic energy, and radiation kept on gushing out toward the fifth prince's body. The core deep underground was constantly burning and exploding, emitting a power that could change the entire land. Right now, the nano armor was able to draw out a portion of the planet's core's power to augment the fifth prince. Simultaneously, the fifth prince clenched his fists tightly. Looking at the huge palm and sword intents descending from the skies, his battle intent soared to an extreme, and the black martial will throughout his body condensed into a huge fist that encompassed him. Fists are authority. Clenching fists is wielding authority. Punching forcefully is authority. I want the entire world to grovel under my fist. Waves of will that seemed to engulf the world were emitted from the black martial will. Amidst crackling sounds, the fifth prince's martial will became even more condensed. It was as if he could condense his conjured physique at any moment and strive for Tier 2 of the divine level. All of the power gathered toward the fifth prince's fists. As a loud rumble rang out across 1,000 leagues, his fists collided with the seething sword intents and huge palm. A loud boom reverberated in the sky, and layers of stacking ripples burst out from the point where the two of them collided. At the next moment, the fifth prince shot out a black line and flew out diagonally toward the ground. Then, with a rumble, he collided into a stretch of mountain range, sending mountains flying and tearing the ground apart. He smashed out a valley that was several tens of kilometers long. In this short exchange, Philip's and Tyron's physical bodies had been shattered, and their martial wills were extremely weak. Almost all of their powers had been depleted. However, looking at the fifth prince who had fallen into the ruins, the three of them finally let out a breath. At the next moment, they turned their wary gazes toward the Fist Emperor. Seeing the extremely wary gazes of the three of them, the Fist Emperor shrugged and said, "There's no need to look at me. Your battle isn't over yet." What? While the three of them were stunned, a silver fist had already torn apart Tyron's martial will, turning him into light powder. Then with a dash, the Fist Emperor smashed Tyron's martial will into dust. At the next moment, he punched out across space. Black will spread out at light speed, turning into black shock waves that pierced through half of the fifth prince's body, turning him into a pile of minced meat. Over half of the fourth prince's martial will was also shattered. In an instant, the three divine-level experts suffered serious injuries once again. The fifth prince, who had attacked, stood in midair, panting intensely. The entire right side of his chest, including his right arm, had disappeared. Right now, with the help of countless silver particles, they were regenerating at a speed that could be seen by the naked eye. Clearly, it had not been easy for him to receive the earlier attack. This was especially so when Tyrant had sacrificed half of his martial will to obtain diabolic energy. That terrifying power had almost caused him to explode. If it was not because he had the nanotechnology armor's ability to absorb attacks, Tyrant alone would have been able to deal him with serious injuries. However, looking at Philip and Tyrant, who were squirming slowly but were unable to regroup, then looking at the fourth prince whose countenance was pale and whose body was trembling while flying, the fifth prince finally revealed a victorious smile. Chapter 704. Not only that, but after withdrawing his left hand, which he had punched out earlier, the fifth prince recovered his breathing, and his aura once again rose steadily. With the assistance of the nanotechnology armor, his injuries were recovering at a rapid rate. Looking at the astonished, fearful, and nervous trio, the fifth prince said coldly, "To think that the three of you are able to injure me with your abilities at Tier 1 and 2 of the divine level. You guys should be proud." The fourth prince looked at the fifth prince in disbelief. He had not expected that this younger brother of his, whom he had always had the upper hand against, would actually be so strong. Or rather, it was not his strength. It was just that the armor he was wearing was so powerful. "What on earth are you wearing? This is definitely not a divine weapon." The fifth prince smiled. Since he was in the midst of recovering, he would be able to completely suppress the three of them after a short while. Therefore, he did not mind saying a few words at this moment. "This is called nanotechnology armor, country bumpkin." Looking at the fourth prince's dazed expression, the fifth prince's smile became even more complacent. "Idiot, this is the equipment that the ancient gods used to fend off external enemies during the first onslaught." "The first onslaught?" the fourth prince said in astonishment. "How is that possible? That's something that happened several tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. What kind of equipment can be preserved for such a long time?" The fifth prince shook his head, his eyes filled with arrogance. "The civilization before the first onslaught isn't something a country bumpkin like you can imagine. At that time, TSK, why am I telling you so much? You won't understand even if I did." Simultaneously, countless experts in the academies and cities were astonished by the battle in the sky. If everyone had still been very confident at the beginning when the three divine-level experts had appeared one after another, then the current situation was extremely dangerous. Zhou Xingwen looked at the fifth prince in astonishment. How is that possible? Who on earth is this person? To think that he single-handedly defeated Prince Philip, the fourth prince, and Tyrant? How could this be? Will he attack the academy? Everyone in the entire Great Western Regional Academy was in a state of panic. The governor and the head of department exchanged a glance, their eyes filled with astonishment. Although they tried their best to calm the students and teachers in the academy, it was to no avail. A feeling of helplessness filled their bodies. Only deity-level experts can decide the direction of the continent's history. The Great Western Region's governor stared at that voice in the sky and sighed. This feeling of helplessness. No matter what we do, the outcome is just a single thought from the other party. Head of Department James let out a sigh and looked at the figure in the sky. Despair appeared in his eyes. Could it be that the heavens want our Great Western Region dead? In the direction of the Regional Chief's residence in Great Western City, Regional Chief Benjamin and his assistant, Asto, looked coldly at the battle in the sky. Regional Chief Benjamin was a conferred knight who had been sent by the first prince to take over the Great Western Region. Asto, the first prince's assistant on the surface, was actually an expert who was prepared to take over the Great Western Regional Academy. He was an expert who had once sparred with the School of Sword Arts Supreme Chief. It was a pity that although the two of them were top-notch conferred knights and demigod-level existences, they had been defeated by Fang Xingjian and then repeatedly humiliated by Tyrant. From then on, they were unable to control the Great Western Region. Moreover, after Fang Xingjian crippled the first prince's cultivation, he was completely marginalized in the Great Western Region. A single order from them might not even be able to leave the regional chief's residence. Although the two of them were dispirited, they did not really give up. They had been hiding in Great Western City and working hard on their cultivation, waiting for an opportunity. It was a pity that Fang Xingjian's forces grew increasingly stronger, pressuring them to the point where they could not even catch their breath. Right now, looking at the situation in the sky, both of them broke into cold smiles. "Ha, Regional Chief Benjamin said with great delight. Regional Chief Benjamin said with great delight. I wonder which expert that Feng Xingjian has offended for someone to come knocking on his door. So what if there are 3 divine-level experts? They're still going to be killed one by one." Asto also wore an excited expression. Feng Xingjian has been causing trouble everywhere and has finally offended an enemy that he can't afford to offend. The reason why he hasn't come back to provide reinforcements yet is probably because he's afraid of this silver-armored man. I wonder who on earth this silver-armored man is. With such a world-shaking cultivation, he can probably be ranked in the top 3 among the 10 divine-level experts. "It doesn't matter who he is," Nahaman said with a cold smile. "It's fine as long as he kills or cripples all of Feng Xingjian's subordinates." Countless people in the great western city noticed the abnormality in the sky. However, only existences at the level of conferred knights and above could directly read light waves and sound waves in order to sense the specific situation. Despite this, the over 100 conferred knights were all dumbfounded at the sight of this scene. They were first astonished by the abilities of the 3 divine-level experts from the Great Western Region Regional Academy, and then they were astonished by the silver-armored man's ferocity in defeating the 3 divine-level experts single-handedly. A short moment later, the 5th prince finally recovered from his injuries. His black martial will turned into a tightly clenched fist and once again condensed outside his body. "All right, 4th brother, I'll cripple your cultivation and spare your life. As for the other 2, you can both die now." At the next moment, the 12 spheres behind the 5th prince were activated once again, and endless power accumulated toward his fists. The 4th prince and the other 2 looked at this scene in astonishment. How is this possible? To think that he has completely recovered? At full power again. With the assistance of the nanotechnology armor, the nuclear engine, which could supply an entire country's electricity, continued to provide the 5th prince with power. The 12 silver spheres also crazily drew out the power from the Earth's core to support the 5th prince. Not only had the 5th prince recovered from his injuries, but the punch he struck out was also no weaker than before. It was still a full-power attack, and it was enough to completely kill off the remnants of Philip's and Tyron's martial wills. However, just as the 5th prince struck out with his punch, black light burst out like a black shock wave, wanting to engulf Philip's and Tyron's squirming martial wills. A human figure suddenly appeared before the 2 of them. Then, with a swing of his hand, he sent the 5th prince's full-power shock wave flying into the sky, as if he was swatting away a baseball. Violent black currents broke through the atmospheric layer, like many raging dragons roaring in the atmosphere. They brought about a myriad of thunderbolts, spatial ripples, and countless changes in the weather. Looking at Feng Xingjian, the 5th prince's gaze was stunned. Feng Xingjian? Looking at the man who had suddenly appeared before him, flames of fury flashed in the 5th prince's eyes. Then it was followed by endless vengeance, and exhilaration that filled up his chest. "Ha, you still dare to come back? Since that's the case, I'll kill you as well today." Chapter 705. The first half of the 5th prince's life could be said to have been bumpy. Due to his lack of aptitude and lack of interest in martial arts, he had always been the weakest among the 5 princes. However, all of this changed after he met the Chaos Witch. Under the Chaos Witch's guidance, not only did he obtain the world's best fist art talent, but he also had many fortuitous encounters. His cultivation kept on rising, and he obtained all sorts of wondrous martial arts. His progress was smooth, and he subdued countless experts, snatched countless manuals and resources. He even obtained the 4-eyed heavenly winged divine beast and a divine weapon from the divine Sun Emperor. In just a few years, he could be said to be riding the crest of success. He was only waiting to step into the divine level before surpassing the 1st prince, unifying the empire, inheriting the ancient path of hell, and even leading an army to unify the world, creating a prosperous dynasty that would last for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. However, all of this was instantly shattered when he met Fang Xingjian. Just as he suppressed the Eastern Sand region's Wang clan and wanted to snatch the Mountainous Sea dynasty's manuals and Panwu heavenly raiment, he met Fang Xingjian, causing him to suffer his first failure in the past few years. He was like an eagle soaring high up in the sky. Yet he was grabbed down violently by Fang Xingjian and then smashed into a swamp, suffering unprecedented humiliation. Thereafter, he even met Tian Yi. He cultivated a divine art and obtained the divine armor refined from the four-eyed heavenly winged beast. He immediately went back to take revenge, but he was defeated by Fang Xingjian and even lost his physical body. After 2 consecutive failures, he put in great effort in his cultivation and endured hardship. With the help of the Fifth Emperor and Tian Yi, he wanted to surpass Fang Xingjian. However, he then found out that Fang Xingjian had killed the undying Xia, crippled the first prince, and suppressed the Full Moon Shrine and Xingwang Mountain. This caused him to be disheartened, and he thought that he would never have another chance to take revenge. That was until he met Shang. It was only after meeting that true Lord Qingshan that I realized just how vast the world is and how there are endless experts. What does a small empire count for? Only the Mage Association and the Holy See of Truth are the true experts. Compared to the evil gods from beyond the heavens and the impact that is about to descend, they are nothing. There's always someone stronger out there, and my vision has already reached beyond the endless universe and space-time. Right now, the fifth prince was looking at Fang Xingjian. Although his gaze was still filled with killing intent, vengeance, and fury, it was not as persistent as before. Fang Xingjian was merely a setback in my life. How could he possibly understand my ambitions? Clearly, Shang had not really communicated with the fifth prince about Fang Xingjian's position. It was just that in the process of working together with the royal family, they had indeed given the fifth prince many benefits. Therefore, the fifth prince did not make his move immediately. Instead, he suppressed the killing intent, vengeance, and fury in his heart. He looked at Fang Xingjian with a gaze like that of a child teasing an ant, hooked his finger, and said, "Fang Xingjian, although I can't wait to kill you immediately, it's too boring to kill you directly. It's better that you make the first move. Otherwise, if I make my move directly, you probably won't have the chance to do so." Fang Xingjian's marshal will scan the fourth prince, Tyrant, and Philip. After ascertaining that their lives were not in danger, he said to them through information currents, "You guys can leave first. Help me protect the academy and the city below. Don't get implicated by the attacks." The fourth prince nodded and said with a grim countenance, "Xingjian, you must be careful. The armor that fifth brother is wearing is too strange. Not only can it absorb all sorts of attacks, but it also seems to be able to draw out the geomagnetic forces to strengthen itself." Tyrant also communicated with Fang Xingjian through information currents. The armor that he's wearing is very similar to the equipment created by Earth's technology. It's also called nanotechnology equipment. It also seems to be driven by nuclear electricity, but it's many times more brilliant. You must be careful. Tyrant had been to Earth with Fang Xingjian before. Therefore, he knew about the technological civilization over there. At the first moment he saw the nanotechnology equipment, he had thought that it was an equipment invented by the people on Earth. However, after the battle, he realized that the other party's technology far surpassed that of Earth's technology. Fang Xingjian nodded. As he threw a glance toward the fifth prince, his martial will, which could enter the finest detail down to the ether particles, also saw through the nanotechnology armor. It's really a product of technology? It's not even the structure of physical particles, but something created from molecules and atoms? Fang Xingjian's brows twitched. Previously, when he had wreaked havoc in the Earth's alliance, he had seen almost all of the top-notch high-tech equipment on Earth. However, he had never seen nanotechnology armor before. How on earth did this thing come about? Behind him, the fourth prince slowly flew toward the ground. Philip and Tyrant had barely managed to form a state that was like plasticine. They kept on reassembling, but they were still unable to take human form. However, although their martial wills had been severely damaged, they had regained their ability to move. In the blink of an eye, they landed on the ground. Simultaneously, the fifth prince's voice also rang out in Feng Xingjian's ears. Hearing the fifth prince's reply, the corners of Feng Xingjian's lips curled up slightly. He looked at his fist and said to the fifth prince, "You want me to make the first move? But if I were to punch you, you might die." Huh. The fifth prince was extremely confident in the nanotechnology armor. Feng Xingjian, you have no idea what you're facing. Putting aside the nanotechnology armor that he was wearing, even his body was forged from a 10,000-year-old ice crystal that the Fist Emperor had personally gathered. It was almost comparable to a level 31 divine remains equipment. How could the fifth prince believe Feng Xingjian's words? Feng Xingjian smiled coldly and said, "You're the one who doesn't know what you're facing." As he spoke, Feng Xingjian's body seemed to tremble a little, and his entire palm was encompassed by a stretch of darkness. After reaching Tier 3 of the divine level, one's martial will and physical body would become one, and there would no longer be a difference between the physical body and the will. Right now, Feng Xingjian's body's toughness far surpassed an ordinary person's imagination. After his body trembled a little, he instantly shattered and then reassembled before the fifth prince at light speed. Then he punched out, and the light rays within a range of 1,000 meters became distorted, completely encompassed by darkness. Feng Xingjian could not see, hear, or sense anything. Even time and space seemed to have disappeared. Under Feng Xingjian's punch, the fifth prince felt as if he had returned to the moment when he was striving for the divine level and had stepped into the microscopic world. Space and time had lost all meaning, and his five senses had all left him. Space continued to distort under Feng Xingjian's violent attacks. Even light waves, electromagnetic waves, and radiation turned into a mess. All of the observation means that a natural human possessed had lost their meaning. What could any defensive means do? At the next moment, when the darkness disappeared, the fifth prince felt as if his entire body had been struck by a magnitude 18 earthquake. Every single cell and physical particle in his body trembled crazily, as if they were going to break down and disintegrate in an instant. Chapter 706. The even more terrifying thing was that amidst crisp kacha-kacha sounds, the nanotechnology armor on the fifth prince's chest shattered. Then his body, which was forged from 10,000-year-old ice crystals, also let out banging explosive sounds, and a large hole was blasted open in his chest. However, the nanotechnology armor was indeed a powerful equipment. After the intelligent program detected that it was hard to fend off this attack, it quickly gave up on the chest area that had been punched. It cut off the connection, allowing the chest area to be punched into dust. Then the 12 gravitational pearls were activated to their limits, converting most of the power into heat energy and absorbing it. Despite this, over half of the nanomachines overloaded and crashed. Even the fifth prince's physical body suffered from serious injuries. Many flesh sprouts grew and regenerated crazily, and silver nanomachines kept on filling up the wounds. Although the fifth prince had suffered serious injuries from this punch, as long as he was given time, the nanotechnology armor would be able to continuously draw energy from the Earth's core and recover his injuries. However, even if he was not killed by this punch, the prowess of this punch was still a great blow to the fifth prince. It was not just the fifth prince. When the Fist Emperor saw Feng Xingjian's punch, his countenance also changed, distorting space, causing the sun and moon to lose their light and space-time to be in a mess. The power and ingenuity of this punch can probably be comparable to that of a Tier 4 divine level expert. How can Feng Xingjian's martial arts be so terrifying? The Fist Emperor had also found out about Feng Xingjian's battle achievements. It was true that he was extremely powerful and world-shaking. However, his battle prowess was only at the second or third tier of the divine level. After coming into contact with Shang, He had thought that there would no longer be anyone in the world who could surprise him. This was until Fang Xingjian's punch appeared before him. On the ground, countless people were also astonished when they saw how Fang Xingjian had smashed the armor, which the three divine level experts had only managed to slash off one of his arms even after going all out. Fang Xingjian. He has become even stronger. How long has it been? I couldn't see anything from that attack earlier. It's as if time and space have been mixed up together. Regardless of how astonished the people on the ground were, Fang Xingjian scanned the fifth prince's body and nanotechnology equipment with his martial will. He threw a surprised glance at the heavily injured fifth prince. With his current abilities, it was impossible for the Empire's royal family to give him any pressure. Moreover, the fifth prince had made trouble for him time and time again, even wanting to kill him. Therefore, he had really wanted to kill the fifth prince with his punch earlier. However, he had not expected that the fifth prince... No, it should be said that the nanotechnology armor was so miraculous that it had actually fended off his punch. This kind of technology seems to be the style of Earth, but it is far beyond the level of Earth. Fang Xingjian looked at the fifth prince's armor and said, "Where did you get that armor from?" The fifth prince did not reply. He was still in a state of astonishment from Fang Xingjian's punch and retreated a distance of 2 kilometers. All of his attention was focused on Fang Xingjian, just like a rabbit that had been targeted by a tiger. With a flash, the Fist Emperor also appeared next to the fifth prince. The silver nanotechnology armor also encompassed the surface of his body, and then a layer of crimson red martial will encompass his body, forming a monster with 6 arms and 3 faces. It was the Azura Path's conjured physique that he cultivated. Clearly, the Fist Emperor had already condensed his martial will into a conjured physique and stepped into the second tier of the divine level. This person's battle prowess is already comparable to that of a tier 4 divine level expert. Stop fooling around. Wake Tiani up. Let's join forces and go all out to kill him. The fifth prince narrowed his eyes and agreed to the Fist Emperor through information currents. You're not going to say it? Then let me take off your armor. At the same time as he said this, Fang Xingjian had already moved behind the fifth prince at akin to light speed. He tapped out with a finger, and the all-conquering sword was activated. Throughout the entire process, the Fist Emperor seemed to be nothing. Under this sword attack, countless cracks instantly appeared on the nanotechnology armor. To begin with, Fang Xingjian's sword arts were far superior to his fist arts. Moreover, when dealing with an armor like the nanotechnology armor, slashing attacks were far more effective than blunt attacks. However, right now, he was facing 2 people after all. At the same time that Fang Xingjian disappeared, the Fist Emperor also made his move. He tapped out with a finger as well, and it contained the same all-conquering sword intent as Fang Xingjian's. Fang Xingjian's brows twitched. Their sword fingers collided, and a crisp crackling sound rang out. A myriad of streams of sword cheese formed from air currents flashed in the surrounding air. Even the ground several kilometers away was slashed by invisible swords, and several tens of large trees were slashed into pieces. However, after the collision, Fang Xingjian remained unscathed, while one of the Fist Emperor's fingers was shattered. Even the nanotechnology armor covering the finger was sliced into silver powder that scattered into the air. However, the all-conquering sword intent that the Fist Emperor had displayed earlier had taken Fang Xingjian by surprise. He tapped out consecutively with his sword fingers, and each sword attack contained one of the infiltrating void, light pursuit, or all-conquering sword intents. There were myriad layers of sword shadows, untraceable or indestructible. However, all of them were countered by the Fist Emperor with the same sword intent. The Azura physique that the Fist Emperor had condensed from his red martial will had a total of 6 arms. The 4 arms on his back performed sword techniques consecutively, and all of them contained the 3 sword intents that Fang Xingjian had performed. Clearly, the Azura physique that the Fist Emperor had condensed from the Azura Path was able to imitate his opponent's martial will. However, the Fist Emperor's cultivation was much weaker than Fang Xingjian's after all. As he counterattacked with the simulated sword intense, the Fist Emperor's body kept on being pierced through, exploded, and shattered. Even a nanotechnology armor was unable to fend them off at all. In the blink of an eye, he was beaten up into a bloody mess. After a few probing moves, Fang Xingjian understood the Fist Emperor's way of doing things. He said coldly, "Do you only know how to imitate?" Swoosh, swoosh. With 2 sword slashes, the Fist Emperor seemed to have rained blood all over his body, and he was sent flying out like a broken doll. Just then, the 5th Prince suddenly burst out with a bright light. "Tian, come out right now. Didn't you say that you want to kill Fang Xingjian? You've slept for so long. Get up quickly. Fang Xingjian is right before you. What are you waiting for?" In the depths of the 5th Prince's mind, a series of furious bellows shook up his consciousness, ceaselessly waking up Tian, who was in deep sleep in his mind. Although Fang Xingjian's strength had surpassed his expectations, the 5th Prince was only astonished and infuriated. He had never been truly afraid. It was not only because of the nanotechnology armor he had and the Fist Emperor next to him. It was also because of Tian in his mind. The 5th Prince and the Fist Emperor were not the only ones who had benefited from Shang. Moreover, even if Tian was not a match for him, the 5th Prince had the confidence that Fang Xingjian would not be able to kill him. Of course, he was not willing to use that trump card until the very end. As the 5th Prince bellowed, a powerful and majestic power emitted from the depths of his mind. It then flowed to his limbs and bones, spreading out beyond his physical body. It was as if endless white flames had encompassed his body and then released endless light and heat. This gush of power was like a fixed star in the universe, incessantly burning itself and exploding with power. It constantly displayed its existence to the entire world, making the 5th Prince feel that he had not awakened a person but a fixed star. Chapter 707. The prowess unleashed by Tian caused the 5th Prince to be secretly astonished. The 5th Prince only knew that true Lord Qingshan had imparted a martial art to Tian and that Tian had been in a deep slumber ever since. He had no idea what Tian had learned. It was this eruption that caused Tian's martial will to turn into layers of white flames that burned incessantly on the 5th Prince's body. Even his entire head was encompassed by a layer of white flames, and his hair seemed to be burning as well. "Give me the power. I'll kill him." A message was sent over, and the 5th Prince was stunned for a moment. He sensed that his powers were also being absorbed by the white flames. He gave it some thought, but did not resist in the end. Let's see what level Tian has reached, and if he can kill Fang Xingjian. In that instant, their powers merged into one, and the white flames seemed as if they had been doused with a bucket of oil. With a bang, the 5th Prince's body started to burn up fiercely. His eyes also turned into a white light, and his body swelled up once again. Waves of violent power could be sensed seething to and fro within him. The Fist Emperor stared at Fang Xingjian, and the injuries all over his body slowly recovered. However, he discovered that Fang Xingjian was merely looking at the 5th Prince with his arms crossed, not doing anything at all. What's going on? Is he just going to watch as Tian awakens and not make the first move? However, the Fist Emperor had only intended to stop Fang Xingjian and help Tian to truly awaken. Since Fang Xingjian did not make a move, the Fist Emperor would naturally not make the first move. Moreover, he had already been thrashed by Fang Xingjian in just a few moves earlier. He had a deep understanding of how powerful Fang Xingjian was and knew that he would not be a match for Fang Xingjian even if he had the nanotechnology armor. Within a short moment, the 5th Prince's will had already hidden into the depths of his mind. All of his powers and physical body had been handed over to Tian, and white light continued to gush out from his eyes. Tian looked at Fang Xingjian like a god looking at a mortal and said, "You're not going to launch a sneak attack on me?" Right now, due to the influence of the stalwart Eidolon conviction, Tian had once again completely forgotten about Fang Xingjian. He only remembered that he had to defeat Tian. Otherwise, he would feel extremely upset. Fang Xingjian crossed his arms in front of his chest and slowly said, "It's more interesting to kill you when you go all out. Moreover, it made no difference to me whether the ant had wings or not. But what are you? Ether particles have been fake personalities for a long time?" Tian, he shook his head. "Ignorant. If you had started running when I woke up, you might still have had a chance of surviving. But now, firefly explosion." With a swoosh, Tian Yi appeared behind Fang Xingjian. All the power in his body was gathered on his fist, flashing with a weak light like a firefly. However, it contained a terrifying penetrative force. Although Tian Yi did not have a cultivation realm and only cultivated the power of his martial will, the power of his martial will was already comparable to that of a Tier 2 divine level expert. In addition to the 5th Prince's Tier 1 divine level power, the nanotechnology armor's Tier 3 divine level power, and all these powers were now gathered on a spot the size of a firefly. How terrifying would its prowess be? Tian Yi's fist smashed on a Fang Xingjian's sword finger, and a loud kacha sound rang out. It was as if a huge building had collapsed, and a crack had appeared on Fang Xingjian's index finger. Tian Yi also let out a stifled snort and retreated 10 meters. A bloody hole had been slashed out on his fist by Fang Xingjian's sword intent. This was the first time that Fang Xingjian had been injured in the battle. Although it was just a crack that could recover in an instant, it still caused him to reveal a hint of surprise in his eyes. The nanotechnology armor, Tian Yi, and the earlier firefly explosion. The things that surprised Fang Xingjian today kept on happening one after another. At the same time that he tapped out toward Tian Yi, Fang Xingjian kicked backward, lashing out at the space with violent powers. Layers of ripples were released like shock waves, sending the Fist Emperor, who had launched a sneak attack, flying out. Layers of stacking blood mist exploded out from the Fist Emperor's body, and there was even a large hole in his stomach. If it was not because of the nanotechnology armor's protection, he would have died from that earlier kick. However, not long after he was seriously injured, Tian Yi appeared before him and grabbed out toward the Fist Emperor. Electric light grab. Perhaps it was Tian Yi's habit, but each time he performed an attack, his martial will would contain the name of the move. In this claw attack, Fang Xingjian's martial will seemed to have formed layers and layers of stacking electricity. This was an extremely fast claw that was like a bolt of lightning. It tore open the wound on the Fist Emperor's stomach, causing him to cry out agonizingly and retreat rapidly. "Tian Yi, are you crazy?" Tian Yi threw a cold glance at the Fist Emperor and said, "I'm the only one who needs to kill him. I'll kill whoever dares to help me." The Fist Emperor's face flushed red, but he did not flare up when Tian Yi's gaze, which was filled with white light, swept past him. Right now, Tian Yi had the powers of himself, the 5th Prince, and the nanotechnology equipment. He also grasped the unknown martial arts that he had learned from true Lord Qingshan. This allowed his abilities to far surpass that of the Fist Emperor. Tian Yi turned his head, looked at Fang Xingjian, and said, "All right, there's no one else in the way. You can go all out as well. Don't disappoint me. I've been unrivaled for far too long. It's too lonely." The existence of the stalwart Eidolon conviction clearly allowed Tian Yi to have the perception and determination that he was the best in the world, no matter what kind of situation he was faced with. Hearing Tian Yi's words, Fang Xingjian's countenance turned a little solemn. For Tian Yi to be able to say such words, he must have something to rely on. As Tian Yi let out a sigh, he dashed out once again. The white flames burning all over his body seemed as if they had come to life, complementing his body and sending out attacks one after another at light speed toward Fang Xingjian's body. Ghostly axe slash. As Tian Yi slashed down, it was as if a ghost had descended into the world. Electric light grasp. A claw tore through the sky like a bolt of lightning. Meteor strike. A finger tapped out, and it was as if a meteor had pierced through the sun. Firefly boom. A punch boomed out, bringing along a power that could destroy cities and countries. A myriad of finger shadows, fist winds, and claw marks encompassed toward Fang Xingjian. Each move was extremely exquisite, like the extremities of fist arts, claw arts, and finger arts. It completely unleashed the extreme powers of a Tier 3 divine level expert. Fang Xingjian did not show any signs of weakness and went up against Tian Yi. His sword fingers brought along a myriad of sword shadows that pressed down toward Tian Yi. The sword of infiltrating void, the sword of light pursuit, the sword of all-conquering, and the sword of instant brought along a myriad of sword shadows that exploded on Tian Yi's body. A fist that was like a firefly's light struck Fang Xingjian's shoulder, and the sword of infiltrating void exploded in Tian Yi's body. The meteor-like finger force exploded on Fang Xingjian's head, and the sword of light pursuit's sword intent encompassed Tian Yi's entire body. Claw shadows and hand blades kept on tearing at Fang Xingjian's limbs, chest, and abdomen, and streams of bloody wounds appeared on Tian Yi's body. The battle between the two of them was one in which there was no defense at all. Both of them were crazily attacking each other's body. In less than a second, violent powers distorted the space, and the area within a range of 1,000 meters was encompassed by darkness. It was as if the entire world had turned into a state of chaos. Both Fang Xingjian and Tian Yi could no longer see, hear, or sense anything. Everyone looked at the battlefield and the sky in great astonishment, watching as the darkness continued to extend out. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Everyone in the academy looked at the strange phenomenon in the sky worriedly, worried about Fang Xingjian's life and death. However, amidst the darkness, Tian Yi laughed maniacally and said, "Excellent, excellent, excellent. I've underestimated you. You're really a good opponent. This is your full power? Fang Xingjian's will transmit it over. You've been unrivaled for too long. I've overestimated you. You're just trash." Chapter 708. Looking at the stretch of chaos in the sky, the fourth prince's expression was extremely grim. What terrifying powers! To think that the two of them are able to create such a vast chaotic domain just by relying on the impact of their pure strength. Philip also wore an astonished expression. If powers of such a level were to be unleashed without any restraints, there probably wouldn't be many people in the entire Great Western region who would be able to survive. What on earth is going on with that fifth prince? Tyron said coldly. He's ridiculously strong. The fact that the chaos has lasted for such a long time means that the two of them are still in a stalemate. Both of them have already reached the battle prowess of Tier 3 of the divine level. Hearing the words of the three divine level experts, Zhou Xingwen and the others became even more worried. Wang Xiaoyan, Fang Qian, Rhoda, and the others had also rushed over. Hearing that the person who had come was the fifth prince and that he had reached the battle prowess of Tier 3 of the divine level, the three of them revealed nervous expressions as they stared at the dark clouds in the sky. No one knew if Fang Xingjian would be able to emerge victorious in this battle. A hint of wariness flashed in the Fist Emperor's eyes. This Tian Yi's powers, martial arts, and origins are all too mysterious. But it's also because of this that he's Fang Xingjian's match. Amidst the stretch of darkness and chaos, four streams of sword light soared into the sky. The celestial eradication sword formation was activated. As the celestial eradication sword formation was activated, Tian Yi's powers were suppressed, smoothed out, and scattered. The darkness and chaos started to disappear. It was as if the celestial eradication sword formation had reset the earth, water, wind, and fire at the beginning of the world, allowing everything to return to normal. Seeing the scene of the sword formation smoothing out the space, everyone in the academy was astonished. Tian Yi sensed the omnipresent sword cheese sweeping down, scattering his martial will, smoothing out the distorted space, and watching as the surrounding chaos dissipated, he smiled and said, "What is this? A formation? This is your trump card?" Trash. Fang Xingjian threw an indifferent glance toward Tian Yi. At the next moment, sword cheese swept out, and clanging sounds rang out. Blood splattered everywhere, and silver light exploded. Fang Xingjian had almost slashed Tian Yi into mincemeat. If it could be said that when Fang Xingjian performed his heaven-connecting sword physique, Tian Yi would still be able to put up some resistance with the help of the nanotechnology armor. However, when Fang Xingjian truly activated the power of the celestial eradication sword formation, he instantly gained an absolute advantage. Almost at the instant it erupted, Tian Yi sensed an intense threat. At the same time his physical body was shattered, he disappeared, turning into a stream of white light and appearing 1,000 meters away. He then reassembled his physical body. He had actually used the power of Fang Xingjian's celestial eradication sword formation to evade the attack by moving at the speed of light. However, the fact that Tian Yi had been forced to retreat with serious injuries from a single sword attack still caused many conferred knights to be secretly astonished. Could it be that Fang Xingjian hasn't used his full strength all this while? What kind of power is this? Is it a spell formation? I feel that all the ether particles within a range of several kilometers are seething. It's too terrifying. Simultaneously, at the instant Tian Yi revealed himself, he opened up his hands, with one hand facing up and the other facing down. His white martial will started burning up fiercely, and each gush of martial will unleashed an explosive reaction that was like nuclear fusion. It made him seem as if he was burning up fiercely like the sun. Fang Xingjian, don't be too complacent. Earlier on, I've only displayed 30% of my powers. Now, I'll let you see my true powers. 9 heavens, thunder, domination. Hades, space domination. At the next moment, a white light sphere flashed on Tian Yi's palm, which was facing up toward the sky. The sky within a range of 100 lis suddenly turned dark, as if all the light had gathered onto Tian Yi's palm. It was not just light. Even the temperature of the entire great western city started to drop, and hints of electricity also appeared in the light sphere on Tian Yi's palm. A pitch-black light sphere condensed under his other palm, which was facing down toward the ground. The ground started to seethe and crack, and countless plants started to wither. The ground within a range of several tens of lis started to tremble. The powers of the entire sky and the earth seemed to be gathering toward Tian Yi's hands. Zhou Xingwen said in astonishment, "One of his hands is gathering the power of solar radiation and atmospheric electromagnetism. The other hand is gathering the power of the Earth's magnetism." The fourth prince stared at the figure in the sky and said, "And this speed of gathering is too fast." The conferred knights on the ground fell silent. Everyone was stunned by the battlefield before them. Under the celestial eradication sword formation, all the physical particles and ether particles within a range of 100,000 meters seemed to be seething. Under Tian Yi's Hades, space domination, and 9 heavens, thunder domination, the powers of the sky and the earth continued to gather. What on earth is this move? I feel that if he were to continue performing it like this, the entire Great Western region will experience a great earthquake. It's too astonishing. Their battle prowess is too astonishing. What tier of the divine level is their battle prowess at? Fang Qian, Rhoda, and the others looked at Fang Xingjian with even more worried gazes. The battle prowess that the fifth prince was displaying had surpassed everyone's expectations. It was a power that they had never seen before. The fifth emperor retreated far away once again, leaving the battlefield. He looked at the martial arts that Tian Yi performed with a solemn expression. I've never heard of such a fist technique in history. Is this the fist technique that true Lord Qingshan imparted to me? Right now, the entire Great Western City and the Great Western region's future rested on Fang Xingjian alone. In the distance, Regional Chief Benjamin and his assistant, Asto, wore bitter expressions. Fang Xingjian has already become so powerful. Even if the first prince were to start all over again, he probably wouldn't have the chance to surpass him. However, Fang Xingjian allowed Tian Yi to finish accumulating power for his moves. He nodded and said, "Not bad. This is still worth watching. It's worth receiving a sword attack from me." As he spoke, he waved one of his hands, and a sword shadow that was filled with lightning appeared in void space. It was a divine remains equipment that had been forged from a divine-level spinal bone and had inherited Feng Xingjian's all-conquering sword intent. It was a level 31 divine level longsword, Thunder Calamity. Seeing the appearance of the Thunder Calamity, Tian Yi's brows twitched. He felt a strong sense of threat. "Then I'll break this sword of yours first." As he spoke, he dashed out, and two lumps of light, one black and one white, that gathered the powers of the sky and the earth, smashed out fiercely toward Feng Xingjian along with his palms. Moving at close to light speed, the magnetic fields of the sky and the earth changed rapidly under Tian Yi's control. At this moment, everyone felt as if they had lost their control over the heavenly thunders and terrestrial magnetism forces, and their physical bodies even felt as if they were going to collapse. Wherever the black and white lumps of light passed by, they left behind a series of colorful spatial distortions, displaying the powerful powers they contained. With this attack from Tian Yi, the entire sky turned dark, and the earth started to tear apart amidst tremendous rumbles. It was as if the powers of the sky and the earth had all been stripped away. All the conferred knights who were watching the battle were left speechless as they looked at this attack in the sky in great astonishment. It was as if they were looking at a miracle. Faced with the Hades spatial dominance and Hades thunderbolt dominance, who had appeared with a flash and were attacking him with both palms, Feng Xingjian's gaze was calm. Holding onto the Thunder Calamity, he slashed out with his sword. Chapter 709. The powers of the entire Celestial Eradication Sword Formation were condensed into this sword attack. Under the eruption of the all-conquering sword intent, the interference toward the heavenly thunders and terrestrial magnetism forces reached an extreme. The power of electromagnetism was the basic force that formed all matter in the world. It represented the structure of all matter. This all-conquering sword attack, which was powered by the powers of the entire Celestial Eradication Sword Formation, caused countless comprehensions to flash in Feng Xingjian's mind. With a single sword attack, the black and white light spheres were slashed and destroyed. At the next moment, the Thunder Calamity longsword slashed across the fifth prince's body, brushing past Feng Xingjian. With this sword attack, the fifth prince's physical body and nanotechnology armor were not damaged in the slightest. However, a lump of white martial will was slashed out, turning into countless light spots that plunged down toward the ground. This sword attack at the pinnacle of sword arts did not slash through the physical body. Instead, it slashed out Tian Yi's martial will and dealt him with serious injuries. Several hundred conferred knights in the entire Great Western City looked at this sword attack in great astonishment. With this sword attack, Feng Xingjian felt that he had come into contact with a hint of the nature of electromagnetism. Prince Philip's mouth was agape, and his eyes were filled with endless fanaticism and admiration. To be able to separate the martial will from the physical body with a single sword attack. This is a sword attack at the pinnacle of sword arts. Regional Chief Benjamin's face was also filled with astonishment. Suddenly, he heard a commotion and turned to look, only to discover that this sword arts genius, who had sparred with the Supreme Chief, was already in tears. To think that I'll be able to see this sword attack at the pinnacle of sword arts in my lifetime. I'll have no regrets, even if I die. Zhou Xingwen, Rhoda, Feng Qian, and the others from the Great Western Regional Academy let out a deep breath. They looked at the sword-wielding figure in the sky with great astonishment, followed by great admiration. In the Great Western City, countless conferred knights from various influences lowered their heads silently, expressing their respect for this sword attack at the pinnacle of sword arts. The Fist Emperor appeared dejected. Before this sword attack at the pinnacle of sword arts, he could no longer summon up any will to resist. Feng Xingjian, Tian Yi's martial will continue to dissipate and weaken. In the blink of an eye, it landed on the ground, turning into a small, light figure. When he raised his head with great difficulty, he discovered that Fang Xingjian had appeared before him with a small white dog. "What do you want?" Tian, he suddenly had a bad premonition. However, he had been seriously injured by Fang Xingjian with a single sword attack, and his martial will have become extremely weak. Right now, his glow was only the size of a matchstick, and he was unable to resist at all. The thunder calamity in Fang Xingjian's hand flashed and tapped onto the small light figure that Tian Yi had taken on. In an instant, Tian Yi's martial will was sealed into the small white dog's body. One sword could sever the connection between the physical body and the will. One sword could place the will into the body of an animal. It was like performing surgery on the physical body and the will. At this moment, Fang Xingjian had a new breakthrough in his understanding of the way of the sword, electromagnetism, and the structure of matter. The celestial eradication sword technique and the all-conquering sword, which contained the profoundness of electromagnetism, had reached an unprecedented pinnacle. Tian, who had been placed into the body of the little white dog, instantly collapsed. Am I not number one in the world? Shouldn't I be invincible? Why did I lose? Why did I fail? Tian Yi's entire will instantly turned sluggish, and then he went unconscious. Fang Xingjian looked at the unconscious small dog in his hand and casually tossed it into Fang Qian's embrace. "Keep an eye on him. Don't let him starve to death." Fang Xingjian could tell that Tian Yi's background was very interesting and therefore wanted to capture him for questioning. As for the fifth prince, he lifted his head and looked toward the sky. The fifth prince's body was still standing in a daze in the sky. Fang Xingjian's earlier sword attack had not just slashed through Tian Yi's martial will. Earlier on, Tian Yi had been borrowing the fifth prince's powers. That sword attack had not only slashed through Tian Yi's martial will, but had also slashed out the fifth prince's martial will and shattered it. At this moment, the fifth prince was only left with a small portion of his powers, which was hidden in the depths of his mind. When the people in the surroundings saw how Fang Xingjian had managed to seal his opponent's martial will into a dog's body with a single sword attack, they were even more astonished. This was a sword technique that was practically godly. Tyron was taken aback. Then he was filled with endless excitement. As expected, I didn't make the wrong bet. Fang Xingjian's future is limitless. The fourth prince also looked at Fang Xingjian with a burning gaze, still in a state of astonishment from the two sword attacks from earlier. Even if the mystic abyss heavenly emperor surpasses Fang Xingjian in terms of power, his understanding of sword arts is probably no longer a match for Fang Xingjian. This person is a natural genius in sword arts. No, I should say that he's a god among swords. The speed at which Tian Yi fainted was very fast. In just a few seconds, the stalwart Eidolon conviction had completely wiped out the memories of his earlier failure. He opened his eyes, and the corners of his lips curled up into a hint of a proud smile. Did I fall asleep again? I hope that in the process of sleeping, I didn't cause any damage to the surroundings. After all, my power is too great. Even some unconscious waves can easily cause immeasurable destructive prowess. Just as Tian Yi was thinking this, he was suddenly stunned. Why was the hand that was reaching out before him a dog's paw? He then reached out his other hand. It was still a dog's paw. What's going on? He wanted to let out a similar howl, but he heard a series of dog barks. Me? I become a dog? Woof, 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 woof. Tian Yi's mind instantly crashed once again, and he fell unconscious. The stalwart Eidolon conviction in his mind started to go through some strange changes. In the sky, the fifth prince had already sunk into a state of complete panic. He sensed that the power in his body was not even a match for the weakest tier, one divine-level expert. It was not even a match for some demigod-level experts. Damn Fang Xingjian. Damn Tian Yi. My power has been taken away by him. The Fist Emperor had already dashed up, supported the fifth prince, and asked, "What's wrong? Are you all right?" Before the fifth prince could say anything, Fang Xingjian was already standing before the two of them. The fifth prince lifted his head and looked at Fang Xingjian with a savage expression. He gritted his teeth and said, "You cripple my martial arts." The Fist Emperor was stunned. He scanned the fifth prince's body with his martial will, and his countenance immediately changed. Fang Xingjian said calmly, "I did it in passing. If you take the initiative to tell me about the origin of the armor, I can let you die more comfortably." Hearing that, the fifth prince laughed out loud. "Kill me? Fang Xingjian, let me tell you this. You can hurt me, humiliate me, and even cripple my martial arts. But kill me? Do you dare?" After saying that, he threw a mocking glance toward Fang Xingjian and said coldly, "Father has already attained Tier 5 of the divine level. He can ignore me and allow me to encounter setbacks, but if he were to kill me, I'm sorry. If you dare to make a move, he'll immediately kill you at light speed." With that, he looked at Fang Xingjian with a mocking gaze and said, "Do it. I'm afraid you won't. You can forget about killing me forever. This time around, it's my loss. Next time, I'll get my revenge. I'll destroy the entire great western city and let you feel what true pain is." Alexander had attained Tier 5 of the divine level, and the fifth prince was certain that Fang Xingjian would not dare to really kill him. Moreover, it was great that the other party dared to make a move. He couldn't wait to borrow Alexander's hand to kill the other party. After all, the power and sword arts Fang Xingjian displayed were too terrifying. The fifth prince had already lost the confidence to defeat him and only wanted to rely on Alexander to kill him. Chapter 710. However, the people on the ground had no idea what was happening in the sky. Regional Chief Benjamin retreated slowly, as if he had instantly aged by 10 years. With such sword arts, the great western region, the first prince no longer has any hope. In this battle, Fang Xingjian has completely established his position at the pinnacle of sword arts. In the entire empire, probably only the sword of the secular world can be a match for him. Asto sighed and left as well. "Let's go." As long as Fang Xingjian is still alive, the first prince really won't stand a chance. On the ground, countless people were still in great astonishment from Fang Xingjian's sword attack. Countless swordsmen looked at Fang Xingjian in the sky, with tears streaming down their faces. It was as if they had been completely moved by that sword attack which had sliced through one's physical body and will. From today onward, Fang Xingjian's prestige in the sword arts domain would be over 10 times or even 100 times greater than before. It would even surpass the School of Sword Arts. Only the School of Sword Arts' former Supreme Chief, one of the Empire's 10 great divine level experts in the past, and the sword of the secular world, who had now become the Empire's prince, would be considered a match for him. In the sky, the fifth prince did not care about all these. His countenance was savage, and his eyes were blood red. His hatred toward Fang Xingjian had reached an extreme. Simultaneously, he also thought that Alexander would be able to take down Fang Xingjian. It was because other than being able to distort space, Tier 5 divine level experts could also compress, stretch, and fold space. They could even create alternate spaces called divine countries to use in battle. Such an ability would give them an absolute advantage against experts below Tier 5 of the divine level. After all, with space being compressed and folded, even light speed attacks would not be able to hit their bodies. With the divine countries descending, the one being attacked would only be able to take a beating and find it hard to retaliate. It was just like the previous time when Fang Xingjian had been trapped in Alexander's divine country and could only watch as Jacob was rescued. However, what the fifth prince did not know was that in order to go up against Alexander, Fang Xingjian had specially integrated the Thunder Calamity into it, strengthening the prowess of the Celestial Eradication Sword Formation. He had then strived for Tier 3 of the divine level, merging his spirit and body as one. His will and body had become one, turning into the true heaven-connecting sword physique. Right now, even if the Black Mage King or the Gold Mage King were to come, he would not show any signs of fear, let alone Alexander. Looking at the fifth prince's provocative expression, Fang Xingjian flicked the Thunder Calamity longsword in his hand and said calmly, "Since Alexander rushed over to stop me, I'll just kill him as well. Since you're so straightforward with your words, then use your life to pay for it." At the next moment, thunderous sword marks flashed on the fifth prince's body. Right now, Fang Xingjian, who was holding onto the thunder calamity, performed the all-conquering sword and had the reinforcement from the celestial eradication sword formation. His prowess had reached an unbelievable level. At the same time as sword light flashed, the nanotechnology armor was sliced into pieces. The armor, which could allow a Tier 3 divine level expert to stand at the pinnacle of power, was sliced through easily. "Stop!" The Fist Emperor let out an enraged bellow, and his Azura physique appeared. He similarly attacked Fang Xingjian with 6 all-conquering sword intents, showing off in front of an expert. Faced with the sword intents that the Fist Emperor simulated and attacked, Fang Xingjian swept out coldly with his sword. In that instant, the nanotechnology armor shattered, his physical body broke down, and his will was shaken. With a single sword attack, the Fist Emperor, who had already been seriously injured, was killed. This expert, who had dominated the world for several decades and was one of the Empire's 10 great divine-level experts, as well as the ruler of the Great River Alliance, the #1 underground influence in the Empire, was slashed into dust before everyone's eyes. The several hundred experts who were watching the battle fell silent, and a feeling of sympathy flashed in their minds. To think that such a powerful divine-level expert had been swept away like dust. How terrifying and tragic was this? Looking at Fang Xingjian, who was holding onto the sword, everyone's hearts trembled. It was as if a divine sword was hanging above their heads. After Fang Xingjian killed the Fist Emperor with a single sword attack, he held onto the nanotechnology armor that he had sliced off from the Fifth Prince's body and casually tossed it to the ground. He turned and looked at the Fifth Prince, and a hint of graveness flashed in his eyes. His earlier sword attack had really wanted to kill the Fifth Prince. The reason why he had only sliced off the nanotechnology armor was because there was someone who had protected the Fifth Prince. Waves of majestic, domineering aura appeared on the Fifth Prince's body, and a golden light that was like the aura of a ruler encompassed the Fifth Prince's body. It was this gush of martial will that had fended off Fang Xingjian's attack earlier. This made Fang Xingjian feel that there was an endless distance between him and the Fifth Prince's sword attack. It was only then that he retreated and killed the Fist Emperor in passing. The Fifth Prince looked at the golden light on his body in pleasant surprise and shouted, "Father, is that you?" The golden light on his body condensed, then recombined and transformed, turning into a human body. It was the ability of a Tier 3 divine-level expert to fuse the physical body and martial will together. The eyes of the man who had taken on human form were cold and passionate, filled with scorching heat and coldness. He seemed to be emotional, yet also emotionless, filled with the contradictions and mysteriousness of kindness and evil. His hands were placed behind his back, and his strong back was straightened. His shoulders were extremely broad, as if they were holding up the entire sky. The person who had rushed over and fended off Fang Xingjian's attack was the Empire's Emperor, the leader of the Krieg royal family, Alexander. Fang Xingjian had been prepared for this since a long time ago. He also had the sudden inspiration ability and understood the other party's means too well. As long as the other party wanted to protect the Fifth Prince, then Fang Xingjian would definitely be able to rush over before the other party was killed. As Alexander's body recombined, streams of sword light shot out. The entire sky was dyed golden, and even the ground and the city's buildings seemed to have been dyed in a layer of golden paint. A domineering and majestic power instantly swept out within a range of several tens of kilometers, slowly trembling as Alexander breathed. He was like the legendary god among the gods, the king of kings. He stood quietly in the sky, accepting the worship of countless people. At this moment, everyone felt that their lives were being controlled by Alexander. Their hearts beat according to his breathing, and their lives circulated according to his thoughts. What kind of terrifying power is this? Prince Philip looked at the golden figure in the sky in great astonishment. Alexander, to think that you've reached such a level? Is this the power of a Tier 5 divine level expert? Father, the fourth prince also wore a horrified expression. He could not sense any familiar fatherly love from the other party. He only felt that aloof and powerful presence that was as high up as that of the gods. So powerful. Tyron let out a breath and said, "This feeling is even stronger than the sword formation that Xinjiang performed earlier." His eyes were filled with worry. Countless people were immersed in the majesty brought about by the power. As the nanotechnology armor on the fifth prince's body shattered, people started to recognize the fifth prince's identity. That silver-armored man is the fifth prince? To think that the person fighting against Fang Xinjiang is the fifth prince? That's right. The fifth prince and the fifth emperor are sworn brothers. That's why they're here to fight Fang Xinjiang together. To think that Fang Xinjiang wants to kill the fifth prince. Now that His Majesty has been alerted, what should we do? The majesty of the power, as well as the authority that the Krieg royal family had established over the past 200 years, caused countless people on the ground to fall into a state of panic when they saw the fifth prince and Alexander in the sky. This was especially so in the Great Western Region Regional Academy. Zhou Xingwen, Rhoda, Fang Qian, and the other subordinates of Fang Xinjiang all wore terrified expressions. After hearing the words of Philip, Tyrant, and the others, they looked at Fang Xinjiang worriedly. Fang Qian sighed and said, "Are we finally going to be attacked by the strongest expert in this country? Xinjiang, will you be able to hold on?" Chapter 711. In the sky, chaos, which Lamia shook her head and said, "I didn't expect Fang Xinjiang's strength to have reached such a level. He's at Tier 3 of the divine level, and the prowess of that sword formation has also exceeded my expectations. Especially the few sword attacks he performed at the end. He has already grasped a bit of the profoundness of electromagnetism. It's really astonishing." Next to Lamia, the other chaos, which Celine said, "But he still came out too early. His talent is really powerful, but his foundation is still a little lacking when compared to ancient legacies like the mages and the ancient path of hell. Alexander is also really unfathomable. To be honest, his reaching Tier 5 of the divine level has exceeded our plans." Tier 5 of the divine level, Lamia said with a sigh. Tier 5 of the divine level allows one to be flexible and unrestrained. Distance is no longer a problem. With a single thought, a short distance becomes a world apart, and a small area is as far as the world. Those below Tier 5 of the divine level have no means of resistance at all. The two Chaos Witches had seen the series of battles that Fang Xinjiang had fought in the sky above the Great Western Region. Although they had never participated in any battles, their judgment was extremely good. They were able to tell Fang Xinjiang's current condition immediately. Celine said, "With that sword formation of his and his sword arts realm that has come into contact with electromagnetism, Fang Xinjiang will probably be able to get the upper hand against Alexander in an ordinary battle. However, if Alexander starts to expand and contract space and summon the divine country, he won't stand a chance." In the battlefield, the fifth prince looked at Fang Xinjiang with a vicious expression. However, with Alexander's arrival, he did not rush to speak. He only looked forward to Alexander taking revenge for him, killing Fang Xinjiang, and snatching his power, resources, and wealth. Fang Xinjiang's eyes still showed no signs of backing down. He looked straight at Alexander like a long sword that pressed forward with an indomitable will. The Thunder Calamity long sword in his hand flashed with sword light, seeming to become even sharper. "Alexander, are you going to stop me?" Alexander did not reply immediately. Instead, he lowered his gaze and said with a sigh, "Fang Xinjiang, I originally admired your talent and didn't want to kill you. However, you've continuously humiliated my Krieg faction. Could it be that you really think that you're invincible with a sword in hand?" As he spoke, the clouds and the ground covered in golden light began to shake. It was not really the clouds or the ground that were shaking, but the entire space was shaking. It was constantly expanding and contracting, giving off the feeling that the world was shaking. With a single sentence, the heavens and earth shook. Many of the experts watching the battle were overwhelmed with shock. This was already a realm that only existed in myths and legends. Only those legendary ancient experts, the wise monarchs who founded a country, had displayed such inhuman power in history. Today, I will completely subdue you and suppress you within my God country. I will intimidate the world and sweep away all evil. In that instant, the world began to spin, and the wind and clouds seethed and changed. The entire Great Western City and the area within the Great Western Region Regional Academy suddenly changed from a blue sky, white clouds, and lush greenery to a stretch of scorched land. Waves of the smell of lava and sulfur came gushing over, and large areas of volcanic ash soared into the sky. The overwhelming volcanic ash covered the sky, causing the entire world to turn dark. In the blink of an eye, it was as if everyone had entered hell from the mortal world. Philip frowned, and his gaze was extremely solemn. Is this Alexander's God country? I can sense a very powerful will lingering within it. Every inch of space here is condensed with his martial will. Tyron's gray will rippled out and instantly transmitted out. The density of ether particles is too thin. If we battle here, our battle prowess will be weakened by more than one fold. The fourth prince's palm cut across the air and felt layers of distorted light rays surrounding his palm. Space, distance, and light rays are all misaligned. Everyone, don't move. Right now, the direction and distance that you're looking at through the light rays are all wrong. Everyone looked at this scene in great astonishment. A Tier 5 divine level expert had the ability to summon a god country and change the world. No one could muster up any will to resist. Feng Qian, Zhou Xingwen, and the others looked at Feng Xingjian, who was in the sky with worried expressions. The fifth prince smiled coldly and said, Feng Xingjian, are you still going to stubbornly resist? A Tier 5 divine level expert can change the world, be flexible, and form a world of their own. What are you going to use to fight against us? Feng Xingjian did not say a word. 3 white, bone-short swords appeared behind his back, spinning like a circular fan. The glow of the Thunder Calamity longsword in his hand became even more dazzling, as if wanting to gather all the powers of the entire celestial eradication sword formation onto the sword. Cut the crap. Take a sword attack from me. The Thunder Calamity longsword soared into the sky, slashing out in the fifth prince's direction with a world-rending prowess. All of Feng Xingjian's spirit, will, and power seemed to have been integrated into this sword attack, and the all-conquering sword intent was unleashed to an extreme. Physical particles were slashed apart, light rays were slashed apart, and martial will was slashed apart. Under this sword attack, light and shadow disappeared, leaving only a vast expanse of darkness that gushed out toward the fifth prince. However, at the next moment, the darkness came to a stop, stopping before the fifth prince and Alexander. Or rather, it was not that it had come to a stop. It was as if the space of 1 meter in front of them had become as far away as the horizon. Feng Xingjian sensed that his power was still charging forward and extending. However, no matter how much power he seethed, he was unable to cross this 1 meter distance. The seething darkness was like a big pancake that kept on compressing in that 1 meter space. However, it was unable to advance in the slightest. Alexander said calmly, Tier 5 of the divine level allows one to control space. The 1 meter in front of me, right now, has in fact been extended to a distance of 10 million lis. Are you able to pierce through it? Feng Xingjian's countenance changed, and he retreated rapidly. The Thunder Calamity longsword drew out a graceful curve, as if it had slashed out a crack in space and pierced out toward Alexander's back. Alexander, his current strength, is even more unfathomable than before. The divine country is over 100 times more complicated than before. However, with his earlier move, it looked as if he had instantly become flat. It was because the space he was in had also been lengthened. The space had been lengthened, and it had originally taken several tens of seconds for each meter to be moved. This made Feng Xingjian look like a thin pancake. When he pierced out with his sword, the space in front and behind connected, and the tip of the sword even pierced into his back. Feng Xingjian's brows twitched, and a thunder calamity longsword brought about a myriad of illusions. He instantly shattered, turning into streams of sword light that extended out at light speed. However, even at light speed, it was merely 300,000 kilometers per second. When each meter of the surrounding space was extended to a distance of 10 million kilometers, his movements looked like that of a flying insect. When the surroundings were all connected together, no matter how he darted out, he would only return to his original spot. Therefore, Feng Xingjian changed his sword move and started to perform the infiltrating void sword intense. However, with the space being changed, the gaps between spaces would naturally change as well. Feng Xingjian darted out left and right, but he was still unable to do anything. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.